hell yeah. Welcome to episode 2 of Shot of Nostalgia, WWF 1998. Brothers, we are going deep dive on that beautiful drive. We're going back to get a shot of nostalgia. I'm good old Mike Belcaster, as always, and joining me, my partner in crime.
Live from the No Cell Studios is the Ace of the Tavern, Ace Field Retro, and we are here with the second episode of Season 3, WWF 1998, and we have 3 loaded Raws to talk about. No pay-per-views. We'll have one of those next week for you. It's going to be a great, great show, man.
Yeah, no, looking forward to it. I'm loving, just this nostalgic drop right into 1998. It feels like muscle memory, man. It's just everything's coming right back to me, flushing the memories of sitting down with my dad, watching some good old Monday Night Raws, man. Just a blast.
And thank you guys for the positive feedback for the first episode everyone was talking about. I know it ran a little bit longer, but that just might be the format this go around because we have 3 episodes, and that was the schedule, and we're going full steam ahead to make sure you guys get all the WWF 1998 goodness for you. And I know it's a lot. We usually did, and we're learning as we go. Nitro was 2 episodes. Then we did a whole, 3 months every ECW episode. And now we're back in here. We're doing 3 episodes, and we're learning as we go. This way there's going to be a season 4 for you, a season 5, a season 6, and then it's going to get better and better. Yeah,
as Mick Foley used to say in the good old Chef Boyardee commercials, beefy. We're getting into it, man.
So yeah, as we talked about, we're going to be reviewing 3 Raws: the 19th of January, the 26th of January, and also the 2nd of February. So we're almost aligned to where we are all these years later in 2023. It's around the same time of year. It's the road to WrestleMania 14 in Boston, and man, there's a lot to get into. Of course, TYSON Austin is at the forefront of everybody, but there's a lot of good undercard that we discussed last week, whether it's Ken Shamrock and the Nation. We can also talk about the New Age Outlaws. Triple H is coming into his own despite being injured. Owen Hart is here. There's a lot of good stuff here in 1998.
Yeah, no, it's like you said. It's just such a breath of fresh air going back, seeing all these amazing characters that we had during our early fandom of pro wrestling, man. I mean, we both watched it, we both lived it, we grew up with it, but I mean, this is when our brains really started developing it, sucking it in. We were glued to the tube, man. And yeah, I'm so pumped for this, man. It's just been a blast so far, and I can't wait to keep going.
And I have to say, man, I do like the audio format for a lot of people to check out the next morning. So if you're listening to this Saturday morning, we do appreciate that. And thank you guys for the shout out on the wrap up. Austin giving some love to Shot Nostalgia. There's some love on the flagship for Shot Nostalgia. I heard some love on Extra Cooler about Shot Nostalgia.
Ooh.
Buzz is the word for what we're doing, WWF 1988. And everybody is excited too, because there's something that's different about this season. ECW is one thing. We're like learning about it. You watched it live, but I'm learning about it. I watched bits and pieces. WCW 1996, I didn't watch, so it's hard for me to. I was watching it for the first time. Now, WWF 1998, I'm watching through adult eyes after my childhood self at 9, 10 years old was enjoying it. It's such a different experience, and I love it because we're building the context with the newsletter, but also enjoying it with all the wrestling hindsight we have since we watched so much wrestling since.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. It's like going on vacation again and going, when you were a kid, you used to go out, that special lake and cottage that with your family, and going back there when you're like in your 30s and you're like, man, I remember. Oh, it just flushes all right back to you, man. It rushes. You get that vibe, that love. That's what this feels like, man.
That is a beautiful visual, Mike Belcaster, on a Friday night. I mean, what better way to start your weekend? What a beautiful visual of a family vacation by a lake and a cottage. But we got the Attitude Era, like I said last week. We're through a sea of signs. We got boobies. We got curse words. We got grungy new product. We got Vic Venom. There's what else can you ask for, man? It's just a great time. All right, so we're going to get into happy hour. Dave Meltzer is going to help build some context and tell us what's going on in the world of pro wrestling, specifically WWF 1998.
God bless Dusty Rhodes, baby.
And, full disclosure, pull the curtain back. This is the second time we're recording this beginning of the segment. And I have to mention again, sometimes it's going to be different. Sometimes it's going to be the same, but we have to mention Dusty Rhodes is at the forefront of everybody's mind with Cody Rhodes' pursuit of getting that elusive WWE championship that eluded his dad. And he was at that promo. The core of the promo was being Dusty's son. Of course, that's every Cody promo, but Paul Heyman and Cody were really pulling out the heartstrings, and Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, was right in the middle of it.
Yeah, man. Just a little dust on that promo, man. It was so awesome. I mean, we just did WCW, we did ECW. So amazing that in 2023 we got Steve Corino and ECW mentioned on Monday Night Raw, almost putting Paul Heyman into tears. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I think they're just fans of shot of nostalgia. They're really Cody loves watching Friday nights down at the Turnbuckle Tavern, man.
What do you guys want to talk about? WWF 1998?
It's beautiful, man. And yeah, it's so cool to see how I mean, we've struck lightning with this show. We've been following a vibe that, I mean, every timeline just matches up perfectly. We're in Rumble season. Rumble was 2 weeks ago. We're in Mania season. Mania's coming up on the forefront. It's such a beautiful thing, man.
Not to mention, too, I mean, I ran into Kevin Sullivan right in the midst of that Dungeon of Doom run. I did the ring announcement for Juventud Guerrera after watching him debut in WCW. So, like, it feels like the word is serendipity, but that's what it really feels like. Shot of nostalgia. We're following that path and just seeing where it takes us. And we don't know what season 4 is. We really don't. I know we waited to announce this one. We truly don't know where we're going in season 4, but we have to let it. We have to have one of those things. I think Aaron Rodgers was talking about going to get, some closure, make decisions in a dark room. I think that's what you and I have to do about what season 4 is going to be.
Yeah, we're gonna get down and nitty and gritty, and we're gonna hash it out and vibe it out and get it going, man.
All right, let's get to the beginning of the newsletter, January 26, 1998. And they're talking about the angle we saw on Raw. And this is the angle we're going to be talking about a lot during this. And it's Tyson and Austin and the big pull apart with Mr. McMahon and Stone Cold. And this was the iteration of that Mr. McMahon character that we saw was birthed the night after Survivor Series 97, where he said Brett screwed Brett. And this was him coming to life. I know we've seen hints of it, but this is the first time we really saw him have a little bit of that extra edge, extra hatred, that passion towards Stone Cold Steve Austin. And McMahon himself was a big part of why this was a success. I mean, Tyson did his part, Austin did his part, but Vince was so pissed that Austin ruined his moment.
So pissed, so believably pissed. Like, you really felt it. Like, God, Austin, you ruined it. You ruined it, damn it. You could feel, like, you see the tenseness in his body, his lingo, the veins coming out of his neck. He was pissed. You ruined it, Austin. I loved it so damn much, man. So much believability there.
So the biggest thing about Tyson coming over, and of course bringing a celebrity at any time, is to get the buzz of the media. And the media at the time was the news outlets. You can watch daytime TV. You can watch the sports centers. You can also look at the newspapers. And all of this was being covered. I mean, we had Mike Tyson was a very polarizing figure in 1998. There's no denying that. He was fresh off of biting Evander Holyfield's ear off in a boxing match, suspended from all competition. So the biggest question people are asking, will they allow Mike Tyson to wrestle if that was the case? And people that were uninitiated into the wrestling fandom were looking at this as WWF doing this, but a big decision had to be made. WWF had their idea about what their competition was, and they had to get Tyson to be able to compete, they almost had to expose that it was a work. And that everybody knows, it's wink, wink. We all know what wrestling is. It's a stage entertainment entity. But this was sort of a conjecture out in the open where people were like, well, Tyson's suspended from boxing. He's not allowed to compete. What's stopping him from getting in a wrestling ring? What's really different? And that's what had to have the conversation. It's just entertainment.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. The height of it, though, I mean, like, you really nail it with, like, all the press and stuff like that. But, like, just having the hype of Mike Tyson being there after the ear bite, all that shit. I mean, that was all over the news. This was all over the news. I mean, I mentioned it in our last recording session, but that my dad used to have this wall at his work with old newspaper clippings, like, of, celebrity obituaries and stuff like that. We had our Chicago Sun-Times or the Tribune had a giant, it was Tyson Austin, black and white, boom, Mike Tyson comes into the World Wrestling Federation. And it was a huge thing. And it was like, I remember him putting it up on the wall, man. It was beautiful. It was such a big moment for not just wrestling, but I think entertainment, sports in general. You got a huge crossover. You can't really strike out no matter what controversy falls into it. It's insane.
Yeah, and it feels like everything WWF touched turned to gold, and everything they were doing in 98 just seemed to build on each other, scaffolding the popularity. And the angle, the one we're discussing, which we will talk about results on Raw, received a tremendous amount of mainstream publicity, carried in most newspapers, and was a top sports story on things like Sports Centers, Fox Sports. And the coverage all of it was derogatory. It was negative. It was something that people looked down on. Wrestling was looked at as this carny entity that was doing things just to be edgy and in a really bad way. But that's something Vince was seeking out in a good way. And I think that's like kind of the draw of the personality of what WWF was becoming. That attitude truly grew from things like this, where it was them against the world. I think that's what wrestling fans sort of felt, where this is my product. They can do what they want. And the rest of the world looks down on us.
Yeah, absolutely. If you know, being a fan, you felt like you're part of a society, something on the cups of being one of the greatest entertainment adventures you possibly could be a part of, and being a fan, you felt like you were part of that group. I always look at it the way you said it last week. This is kind of like South Park, but they're doing their own thing. They're being edgy. They're getting by. It's such a damn spot on analogy, especially going back and watching. I mean, we're seeing the New Age Outlaws out there rocking South Park T-shirts. I mean, it was a completely different time, different place, and I think the controversy really helped, spike that momentum for WWF at the time.
Yeah, and the plan, obviously, we talk about following the momentum, and it's very apropos to what's going on this year for WrestleMania. With the plan was always Cody Rhodes winning the Rumble, going on to WrestleMania, and possibly dethroning Roman Reigns. But now you got Sami Zayn, whose popularity could not be predicted, is now sort of throwing a wrench in those plans. And do they stick with the plan? Is the right thing to pivot and go with Sami Zayn? Is it, we talked about this in exhaustion at this point, but the same thing is going on here. The plan has always been Stone Cold was the guy ticketed to go to WrestleMania and end Shawn Michaels' reign, be the next guy, get that rub from the new generation star, and become the face of the Attitude Era. It's like it was ticketed. Obviously predictable. Predictable is not bad. But Meltzer's talking about, obviously something like this takes precedent. If Tyson is willing to get in the ring and you can create the buzz and have Tyson put over Austin at WrestleMania, I mean, how do you not make that decision? That is a conversation that has to happen behind closed doors. And we know that 1998, the people behind the scenes didn't give a shit about work rate. So it wasn't about that. I think what really would have gotten in the way was the political landscape of who's winning, who's losing. How does my guy look good and how do both guys look good? Because obviously Tyson has to rebuild his image, but he can't go into WWF and just take a stunner and lose. That's not going to happen. And as Tyson can't knock out Austin, so where do we go?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in all honesty, I think Tyson, the man himself, would be okay with jobbing out to Stone Cold. I think Don King would be the person going, no, baby, my man right here, Mike Tyson, is not going down like that. And that's Don King was a hell of a promoter, hell of a booker himself. So I mean, having him and Vince on the same page on something, I mean, I'm sure they'd be neck and neck with each other about who's going to win the fucking match.
Well, I think that's a lot of times why we see celebrities in matches that are tag matches. So there's someone to take the pin. I mean, think about the Bad Bunny thing. Bad Bunny, Miz was involved. Damian Priest was involved. You have to mask a lot of this because, I mean, again, a lot of the work rate has to be carried. But going back to 1998, again, no one gave a shit about the work rate. We're watching matches that are 10 minutes long. They're super fragmented. They have DQ finishes, countouts. It's not about the wrestling. So I think what really would get in the way would be the political thing where we watch Forbidden Door things. Conversations have to happen behind the scenes. We talked about in WCW and New Japan Pro Wrestling, but even today, AEW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, there has to be a give and take. And I don't know if there'd be ever a decision that could be made that Austin and Tyson would be able to get in the ring, put the match out there, and everybody would be happy. There's no way that both sides could be happy because some guy has to look weak and both guys can't look weak.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. You hit it right on the nail.
So we talk about the money, and as much as people are getting paid, and Mike Tyson, the number was $4 million and $6 million was estimated as well. So I'm sure it's somewhere in between 4.5, maybe 5 million. So this is the best information leading towards, the latter figure. So Meltzer breaks it down as far as buy rate, what they would need to break even or make money. And he says, if the $4 million figure is accurate, WWF needs 648,000 buys out of WrestleMania to make out financially. And if the real figure is 6 million, it would need about 807,000 buys. And these are figures that are not break even. It's to make the investment of Mike Tyson worth it. And we talked about this. I mean, the celebrity situation, or even bring it back down to independence. When you pay a guy a certain amount of money or a girl and they come in, you have to be able to make it worth your while. Like, are they going to, I know you don't want to look at people as like a math equation, but is the value of what you're paying a person worth what you're getting in tickets and buy rates? And Tyson, I mean, I think he was, and I think they knew that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you could do any promotion, anything, any circumstance. If you're not getting your bang for your buck, then it's not worth the investment, right? So if you're not going to draw big numbers, if you're not going to get the pay-per-view buys, you're not going to sell out the gate. Like, what are you doing? And you have to have that figured out before the show comes, because you can't be screwing over your own boys and your own girls in the locker room just to get this Mike Tyson presence if it's not going to pay out and take care of your company in the long run, right?
100%. And I think there's the recency of Bam Bam Bigelow versus Lawrence Taylor main eventing WrestleMania 11 is still stuck in their head. And it was a vast disappointment despite being hyped tremendously. And I think they realized that Lawrence Taylor's drawing power wasn't nearly as big as they wanted it to be outside of New York and Connecticut. New York people, we live in this bubble, and Lawrence Taylor is a legend here. He, Super Bowl champion for the New York Giants. I think Vince McMahon, living in that area, sort of was in that bubble of the Northeast, thinking he'd be this huge draw. And maybe in the NFL, it doesn't matter what team you play for. The NFL is this conglomerate that can play in any city and they'd be huge stars and huge draws. So NFL wasn't what it is in 1998 or whatever, 1996, as it is now. Same thing being said, I think they have to consider, is Tyson's star regional to where we are? Or is it global? And I think history has proven that he is global, and that's why they're willing to take the risk on paying him $6 million.
Absolutely, man. And I mean, it paved the way for what we're seeing nowadays. I mean, we got Logan Paul, like you mentioned, Bad Bunny. I mean, we've had a plethora of celebrities and other sports, famous people inside the arena, inside the ring, doing stuff, all making really good money. Nowhere near deserve it as much as Tyson did here, right?
Very, very true. And I'm sure if we look at the inflation rate and what these guys are getting paid, I mean, hopefully, if you look at $6 million in 98, I wonder what that is equivalent to. And I wonder what a guy like Logan Paul is getting paid. So I'm sure that's all math equations we do in a later episode. That's a special edition. But WWF at the time, they're trying to reestablish themselves as a brand name for wrestling in the US, because people forget, because we live in this world. A lot of people are born after WWE they already won the Monday Night War. They felt like they planted that flag and they established themselves as not only like a wrestling entity, but they became an entertainment conglomerate. That's truly what they are. They're a brand. They're Disney. They're ESPN. They are the staple of what wrestling is. But in 1998, they weren't. And WCW was kicking their ass for 19 months. Bischoff was ahead of the curve, beating them at every corner, doing the things that people wanted to see, and WWF wasn't doing that. So this, again, was another attempt from Vince McMahon. Like, listen, we have to throw it all in on a guy like this, because if WCW does it, they may do it wrong, but we won't get the buzz. And we have to do something that, not desperate, but at least something to be different and get this press. And it worked from the beginning. People caught on immediately.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, nothing was bigger at the time than this story going on. Like, I mean, then it was all over every newspaper, news channel. As you said, ESPN, Sports Center, all this stuff. I mean, you really are not only creating a buzz, but a controversial buzz, and it really paid off for WWF in the long run, right?
So there's also the conversation, and this is something I didn't know before doing the research. In 1976. There was a wrestler versus boxer match, which would be something you can base as a history lesson to do Tyson Austin. There's precedent set that could be done. Muhammad Ali in 1976 taking on Antonio Inoki. Meltzer talks about how this got to be a disaster, but at the beginning, there's a huge buzz. Muhammad Ali, one of the biggest athletes in the world. You can ask anyone who he is, well past your time. People that were born well after he was done being a boxer know who he is. You grew up knowing what a legend he was. And Antonio Inoki, two huge names, but it became a disaster because of why? It's political landscape getting in the way of who's winning, who's losing.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with it being in a baseball stadium. No, it was huge. I mean, Muhammad Ali might be he is the Michael Jordan of boxing. He has that lore. Not a lot of people could pull off that celebrity status inside their own little bubble, man. And this was huge. But to see how big of a flop it was, I mean, nobody talks about how good of a match Antonio Inoki and fucking Muhammad Ali had in 1976. So, I mean, that goes to show where it can fail, right? I mean, we're here 2023 talking about Austin Tyson. I mean, on a normal basis, it's not just because we're doing a show here. It was a huge moment, absolutely huge.
So big thing here is wrestling fans or boxing fans are both very different. So Meltzer talks about how wrestling fans didn't really take to it because wrestling was regionalized in those days. And most of the regional promoters didn't like the idea of the fight since they saw it as something Inoki doing for himself and couldn't see how it would help regional business. Boxing fans, on the other hand, didn't buy the match because they didn't know Inoki. And there was still the idea that this was part of a fake wrestling promotion. So from the beginning, the two diehards on both sides really didn't have a draw with it. And I understand wrestling was moving past this regional thing. Vince McMahon was 13 years past WrestleMania 1, so establishing it as this like main entity that wasn't just regional. It's not just in your area. It is a national. And we talk about it being smaller, but at the time it was being broadcast nationwide across different countries. You're able to check out WWF. So Tyson has a different appeal for sure.
100%.
All right. So he talks about the other celebrity situations that were setting precedent. Of course, we go back to WrestleMania 1, Mr. T teaming with Hogan against Orndorff and Piper in 1985 WrestleMania 1. So also talking about Tyson and Austin about how the match would go. And you and I were fantasy booking it and talking about it. I have a question for you. We brought this up on the first time we were recording before it got all messed up, but
yeah,
Shawn Michaels obviously has a fractured back. We know that's the case. He hurt it. Meltzer doesn't know it yet. Nobody really knows how badly Shawn Michaels is hurt on the lead to WrestleMania. Say Shawn Michaels has to drop the title or can't compete. How do you do this? Do you give in if you're the booker? Do you give in and have Tyson get involved with Austin and have Austin have the title and defend it against him at WrestleMania? Is that still the same moment for Austin?
I don't know, and I've rebooked this several times since, a half hour ago when we had to re-record this. So I'm going, here's the game map. HBK comes out instead of Austin to confront Mike Tyson, right? We know HBK knows his back's hurt. Vince gets it. They're trying to figure out this angle. They set up a program for No Way Out, right? We're going to have Michaels versus Tyson. Tyson instantly just knocks out Michaels. You have to do it, right? You give Tyson the belt going into Mania, and have Austin fucking take out Tyson and get the moment. Still get the moment. How else could you do it? Where it's going to be impactful. And what a newspaper article running into Mania. Mike Tyson, new WWF champion, and going into WrestleMania. Like that would be the only way to keep it with as much hype and steam coming behind it. I don't know what the fuck you do.
Dude, Vince Russo would sign off on that in a second. And
bro,
wow. But Meltzer talks about it. He says Tyson does a singles match with Austin. It ends with some heels, likely DX interfering, and Tyson and Austin cleaning house back-to-back, shaking hands at the end to a big babyface pop carried by the media worldwide that Tyson and his people are looking out for of this deal. And he also said perhaps DX could cost Austin the match. In that way, they don't have to ask Tyson to lose, and people at least get a finish out of the match. Tyson cannot accept the unfair win, once again making him a babyface at the end. And this would lead to Austin Michaels match, perhaps a King of the Ring, where Austin would get the title win, which would make up for the loss, or they can go without a finish. Although that scenario would seem like the least sense, both for future business and the ultimate fan reaction to the show, but to protect Austin. I don't know if you have the same moment. If the Austin era has begun, I don't think you get that in June for King of the Ring. That's not. Yeah. It has to be a WrestleMania.
Yeah, no, this moment here is a thing that really set up that you have to have that WrestleMania, homecoming, your launch pad. I mean, this is what launches careers. This is what we know what, like, we wouldn't be as hyped about Cody Rhodes going against Roman Reigns this year as we would have, like, without this moment, without Austin winning at WrestleMania 14. You lose that spectacle of what the main event of Mania is, right? I mean, that it held down the fort for how many years until we went to 2 nights, man. I mean, it was that main event at Mania. The title match of Mania was always what was you were buying the pay-per-view for. Everything else was just extra frosting on the cake, man.
So Meltzer talks about other scenarios. He did mention potentially a tag match where Tyson and Austin team up against DX if Triple H is able to compete. That's obviously you have Triple H taking the fall there. And then also his other scenario was Tyson ending up as a referee after doing an angle somewhere that someone forced Tyson out of the match, making the athletic commission the heel. He wanted to compete, but couldn't do it. And then they could have the match with Tyson in Austin's corner to begin. Very similar to what they actually did. But, obviously Tyson goes into WrestleMania in the corner of DX and then turns on DX and all that goes on. But And then also, too, you can also have Austin turning down the match with Tyson because he wants to wrestle Shawn Michaels, and that would put the WWF Championship on this higher level.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is all conjecture by Meltzer because he doesn't know what's going to happen, but it's definitely fascinating conversation.
100%, man, and it's cool to see some insight outside of our own from 1998, man, because we were just, hook, line, and sinker. We were ready to see the show, and yeah, I think WWF, I think Vince, I think they handled it to the best of their ability, and it worked out for best, best long term situation. It worked out great, man.
So there's negotiations between WWF and All Japan directly starting this week, and there's already media speculation that the top matches involving WWF talent would be Taker versus Tao and Kobashi versus Vader, underneath a Misawa versus Kawada Triple Crown matchup on top. And Meltzer mentions politically, if that's what All Japan wants, it should be an easy negotiation as they can trade an Undertaker win for a Vader loss, and WWF would have no problem with it. But this is the reason why I included this, because nothing really comes out of the All Japan WWF scenario and whatever, but you see the mindset of you have to trade a win for a win. Some guy loses, your guy wins. And that's how business is done behind closed doors. And you'd be lying to yourself if you didn't think that happened at Forbidden Door, where conversations between Gato and Tony Khan happened of how to make my guys look strong, how to make your guys look strong. How do we both win in this situation?
100%. And I think it was easier done on Tony Khan's part because I think he got it. He was, of course, he's an Okada fan. He wants to see Okada get put in a beautiful light. WWF, WWE, they always seem like the cock tease of these Forbidden Door things. Like you hear rumblings like, oh, they're talking to New Japan, they're talking to All Japan. We never see it come to fruition. We never see a full crossover with WWE doing anything outside of their own, I think, ECW, we never got anything, man. It's wild.
So as mentioned in the Mexican section of the newsletter, Sean Morley signed this past week with WWF, that being Val Venus. Adam Copeland, we know who that is, went to Japan for New Tokyo Pro Wrestling to get some more miles under that belt. And the feeling after the camp is that Morley and Copeland are going to be major stars and get a huge push once they debut on television. That's a little point in the section of Meltzer, man. Copeland, he recognized, and again, this is all information given to Meltzer, so it's not like he saw Edge and was like, yeah, he's going to be a huge star. But what an understatement, going to be major star. I would consider Val Venus a major star of the Attitude Era. He was IC champion, European champion, major star.
Huge program with Ken Shamrock. He was doing the Ryan Shamrock thing. It was great. Yep. And I don't think anybody didn't pop when they heard "Hello, lady." Cue the saxophone, get the goosebumps going. Get me a white towel. Let's fucking go, dude.
So finishing off this newsletter, there's talk about the morale in WWF, and this is something that really isn't considered when we discuss things, especially coming off of so soon after Survivor Series 1997 with what went on in Bret Hart. And Meltzer says the feeling from several is that the scars from November really haven't healed a lot, and people, even though they pretend they are okay, nobody trusts management at all. And then in WCW, the mid-card morale is bad because nobody thinks there's any upward mobility like they have in WWF. So just a little bit of insight of what was going on in the locker rooms. And that's sort of obvious. I mean, you could probably understand a lot of the talent when that Bret Hart stuff went down. People were not happy because if it happened to him, it could happen to anybody.
Absolutely. I mean, that was their king of the castle, and he got the throne really, really fucking quick.
So going to the February 2nd, 1998 newsletter, Meltzer talks about it. What we do know is that the main event of WrestleMania is at this point scheduled officially to be Shawn Michaels versus Austin for the WWF title. Meltzer says, we believe the plan is, and all along was going to be for Tyson to be the ref for the match, but that role for Tyson is only speculation at this point. The belief from this end is just announcing Tyson as referee would help the pay-per-view somewhat based on curiosity, but overall, a special referee can only mean so much. So they would create an intricate storyline to get to the same end and make people think it's going to be more. So we just talked about that. I think that was pretty much the determination that we all discussed, is that he was never going to be active. It was just going to be like, they want people to wonder what if, like, if he's going to be there, is he wrestling Austin? Is he getting involved? Is he punching people? You're going to buy the pay-per-view just to see him.
100%, man. He's a draw.
So either way, Tyson's in the gym getting ready for his boxing comeback. He'd be cleared in June. So this is now February, months away. He's trying to get back in the ring and trying to stay in ring shape. And he says his training is his top priority, but WWF is trying to get him to work dates for them in between his training. Just be there at Raw. We talked about he's going to be on a weekly TV show. He's been there more than most celebrities are on the build up to WrestleMania, certainly more than Lawrence Taylor was in the build up to WrestleMania 11. But we're going to get more press conference stuff. We're going to get more angles being shot, a lot of memorable moments with Tyson and Austin. And they're going to get every bit out of this 6 million, 5 million, 4 million, whatever the amount of money is. They're going to get a lot out of Tyson. And to me, looking back at it with hindsight, it's easy to say that they won out because especially where they went just a year later, think about the growth from WrestleMania 14 to WrestleMania 15, just the immense growth in buy rates and everything. Just a second.
Yeah, no, it's insane, man. I mean, it really paid off, and it was a great investment. Like, I don't think anybody else could have done. If WCW would have brought in Tyson, I don't think it would have been as beneficial. I think Vince doing it this way, the way they handled it, the way they really played it. I mean, come on, Tyson joining DX right before the pay-per-view. It was a beautiful swerve, and then him ripping the shirt off and having the it really panned out and made it seem like WWF was such a big deal that Mike Tyson had to be there. And I think that it did wonders for the company, man.
So we can continue talking about all the media outlets and everyone covering, but just understand what a big deal this was in New York, in Tokyo, in Chicago, anywhere you look, people were talking about the WWF. And at the end of the day, that's what you wanted because wrestling was not on people's minds. And now it was, and that's a win in Vince's mind.
Hell yes, pal.
So this is the other thing that popped in here. Monday Night Raw from 119, its largest rating since the Monday Night Wars began, doing a 4.00 rating, peaking at 4.7. What does that mean as far as viewers? 3,381,000 homes for the final minutes when Tyson and Austin had both been held off appearing except in teases up until that point. The amount of people there, and this is not even the largest they'll get to. They get to like what, 5.5, 6 on a Monday night?
I think they do a 6-8 during the Mick Foley switch over, which is huge, man. I mean, they would a 4-2, they would be heads over heels for right now, and that's 2023. Any company would be happy. I think any show, football's the only show that holds a higher ranking than ratings on that shit. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously the world has changed as far as measuring TV ratings and what it means because all the options you multiplied your options by 35,000. Like, think about all the options you have between YouTube, like the options on YouTube, streaming, Hulu. How many streaming services are there? On demand, us. Like, we could be competing with Raw, like at the time. But the crazy part is, despite doing that number, it still wasn't enough to beat Nitro. It just shows you where wrestling was at the time. Nitro still beat them. And a lot of people were watching wrestling on a Monday night. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was definitely awesome.
All right, so negotiations with the WWF for the 5-1 Tokyo Dome show took place on 124 in Tokyo with Bruce Pritchard, Gerald Briscoe representing WWF, and we got Baba, Johnny Ace, and wrestling writer Fumi Sato of Weekly Pro Wrestling magazine representing All Japan. It was a 90-minute meeting at the Tokyo Capitol Tokyo Hotel, ended with nothing even close to being decided. Baba told the Japanese press the next day that the two sides couldn't come to a financial agreement, with some media stories noting how Michinoku Pro had paid WWF something like $60,000 for Undertaker and Sonny for the Sumo Hall show in October, and being that it blamed for the reason Michinoku was in such horrible financial straits. So it's just interesting to think about Bruce Pritchard, Gerald Briscoe getting on a plane and meeting 90 minutes in Tokyo about doing a super show, a Forbidden Door show. Like, yeah,
would have been huge, man. I know, and I mean, the recurring theme from season to season is all these crossover events. I mean, WCW did it, tried to do it. ECW kind of did it. WWF never really got to that point. But the what ifs. What if everybody played nice with each other and we were able to get a massive wrestling super show at some point? It would have been fucking awesome.
Yeah, and it seems like they're not able to get on the same page, but this is the idea. And people talk about how WWE would never do a Forbidden Door show and that AEW was like paving the way for that. History has shown us, and especially just through our years of Shot Nostalgia, this is a tale as old as time in wrestling, that as long as there are promotions and multiple promotions, people are willing to do business together. It's just a matter if they get in the same room and come up to an agreement of who's winning, who's losing, and also about making money. So if WWE can make a lot of money, which money's not an issue for them right now, which is probably why they don't even worry about doing a super show. But let's not take it off the table in a future world. Say when Vince is gone completely out of the picture and Triple H, or maybe, Aurora Levesque is now controlling the stake of WWE. Maybe she has a progressive thought to say, let's do an AEW WWE super show. It's not that far out of the realm of possibility. I know people think it can't happen, but history shows us it can happen.
Oh, it would be great. I would love it.
And we could probably do like a friendly booking show with the extra cooler boys, Chick Foley, and just book a super show between AEW, WWE, New Japan. Include Impact in there, and then get them all together and do a super show. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm down.
All right, Shawn Michaels and Vader were both out of action with injuries this weekend, and Meltzer talks about Michaels' broken back right now as a lower back stiffened up stemming from the first backdrop where his lower back hit the casket. So they identify that that's where he got hurt, but then nobody knows that his back is broken. Maybe it's just the Vicodin that's masking the pain right now.
Oh, I love it.
All right, so they're hopeful that they'll both be back on the 131 house show, but it's a day-to-day deal. Vader appeared to have been injured in an angle at Davis, California against Kane, as Kane lost his control of Vader and appeared to drop his head too low when using the tombstone. Meltzer mentions that it's not as bad as Steve Austin's deal with Owen Hart. But yeah, there's been, Vader. I mean, we can do a whole show on Vader, how poorly he was booked in WWF. Like, you can even see it here, man. It's just, he has no, I understand why they booked him the way they did, because he wasn't in shape. He was moving slower. But when you watch WCW, Vader, he is he's one of the best big men ever. And WWF is just like, he was a mid-carder, worse than a mid-carder in WWF.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And it sucks too, because you see that star power behind him. You know what he's capable of, but then he's like jobbing to the British Bulldog on Monday Night Raw, and like it's a mess. But listen, he still served his purpose. He was always a favorite, always a character. I love Vader so much. So even just seeing him here was good. But man, yeah, drop the ball.
Well, just to show you how bad Fed brain gets you sometimes. Like, I was a WWF kid growing up, so all I knew was Vader's run in WWF, and I was like, what is the appeal of this guy? And then you go back and watch the All Japan stuff, you watch the WCW stuff, and then you get it. But I think the best representation of Vader in WWF is him wearing his tights backwards, like most of the Raws we're seeing. Like, it's his Vader time on his back. It's like wearing his shirt backwards. What are you doing? Like, no one told him in the back, like, come here for a sec. You have your singlet on backwards, Mr. Vader.
It's probably an Owen Hart rib. Like, you got to go out there and wear the singlet backwards, and we'll never hear it. But we'll call it that. It'll work, because both men are here to speak about it. But man, I like that idea.
All right, so the working plan is still for Mero versus Butterbean match at WrestleMania. Butterbean is contracted for one more WWF pay-per-view appearance, and there is some discussion to holding that match off until April or May, depending on how the chips fall when the Mania lineup is finalized. We don't see Butterbean until WrestleMania 15, where he is the final boss in the Brawl for All. But Mark Mero didn't get a shot at Butterbean, but we saw, what's his name, Bart Gunn, get knocked the fuck out from Butterbean in WrestleMania 15. So
yeah, no,
that always confused me too. Like that, like what was that? But what is Butterbean? I don't get it.
Well, that was the thing. Like, we were. I was pretty informed about boxing at the time, so I knew Butterbean's capabilities. I knew he was just this big dude that would go in there and knock people the fuck out. He had this lore about him, but we watched that Dark Side of the Ring episode covering the whole Brawl for All fiasco, and Bart Gunn really, he shit the bed. Not literally, just business wise. So they just set him up to fail, which was a sad sight to see. But man, I wouldn't want to be across the ring from Butterbean. That's a scary mental image.
Yeah, so we won't talk about Butterbean anymore, because I think, like we said, there is one more WWF pay-per-view appearance. It's not going to be until March 99, so they wait on that. But yeah, Butterbean, it's weird to see him pop up here. And Mark Mero versus Butterbean is glad it didn't happen at WrestleMania 14.
Yeah. Likewise.
All right, we have Dan Severn is going to be billed as the NWA World Heavyweight Champion when he comes in, to be managed by Jim Cornette, probably debuting in mid-February. So Meltzer talks about, and I quote, "My feeling is the only shot Severn has to get over is to be like Bill Goldberg and just destroy everybody with intense power moves, and there's no guarantee that'll work because Severn doesn't have that look." And he says, unlike Shamrock, who they didn't start off correctly but had enough charisma, was good enough worker to overcome it, and is now near the top of the ladder. if they make the same mistakes with Severn, he won't be able to overcome.
I love Dave's ambition for Ken Shamrock, man. It's really like I'm behind it. I like it. I like that he has so much faith in the character of Ken Shamrock and the ability of Ken Shamrock. I wish we would have gotten a bigger push, a bigger run out of for Ken Shamrock, man.
Thoughts on Dan Severn, man? Like there was, to me,
Oh,
as a 9-year-old, there was nothing worse than a Dan Severn match, in my opinion. It was horrible in '98. But going back and watching, he's a legit tough guy that I think would probably get over in today's wrestling landscape, but he did not fit in WWF '98.
yeah, he fell in the lines of like watching, Bradshaw. Yeah, like I had no
Yes.
fucking like Bradshaw would come on TV. I'd be like, I'm gonna go get more popcorn. That's one of those things. I had no, it was the Cornette gimmick. I had no horse in the race. I didn't give a shit about the NWA or any of this, but I knew that Dan Severn was a big bad dude. I just didn't care.
Yeah, and they're going full steam ahead with this NWA, whatever invasion type of thing they're going, and they're going to be having him come in as the world heavyweight champion with Jarrett being the North American champion. So 2 belts, Jim Cornette at the helm of all of it, which he's the only real saving grace here of it. And you get some Cornette promos, and apparently he's going to be managing a new tag team. Will get a huge push, and he's probably going to manage Tiger Ali Singh, trying to make him like a Bobby Heenan with this NWA family. But the basic idea right now for Cornette, according to Meltzer, is to manage young prospect types and do interviews to get them over and help put together their matches. So good intentions, but the NWA stuff was doomed from the start.
Yeah, no, I still don't give a fuck about Jeff Jarrett. So they didn't win on that one. No.
So right now with the house show matches, right now the policy for WWF is try to keep the cards between 2 hours and 15 minutes and 2 hours and 30 minutes total, with 10 matches booked on most cards. And that necessitates short matches. So none of the matches on house shows last 10 minutes any longer. That's pretty much an edict by everybody. No long matches. You go out there and do your shit, get your stuff in 10 minutes or less. What do you think
That's
about
crazy.
that?
That's wild. I mean, I guess a good showcase for the talent, but come on, man, you got to give the crowd something good, man.
This is just, I mean, this is quite clear that, again, we discussed in the beginning of the show, work rate does not matter. It's just about the moments and what it's a wrestling show without wrestling. And this is
Yeah.
an idea here. It's hard to even get the momentum for any good match that it can't get going by being a good match, good main event match. Sometimes doesn't really build its steam until 11, 12 minutes and goes 25. And that just didn't happen in '98. Just didn't happen. It wasn't part of the landscape.
No, not everything was, pull the trigger, let's get it done, let's shock value. Everything was shock value. You want a quick win. Get Austin out there, have him do his stunner gimmick. It's over. Boom. 1, 2, 3. Call it home. Good job, guys.
All right. So the last piece here is a letter from Jerry Costello from Clark Summit, Pennsylvania. And he talks about false advertising, which you and I have discussed multiple times on the show. And it's a conversation among wrestling fans about billing a show. And obviously it's always card subject to change. I know that word has lost meaning because it just happens all the time and we see it, but it's a true fact. Wrestling is card subject to change, but false advertising is something that indie shows do as well. And it's something you and I spoke very passionately about, but this is Jerry Costello. Dave Meltzer does answer him. So I thought this was very interesting. He said, I just want to comment on the common practice of advertising wrestlers that aren't going to appear at house shows. Living in a fairly small town, we get used to some wrestlers not appearing as advertised in Scranton. I know there are legitimate excuses such as injuries. However, the events that led up to the 1-9 WWF card were unacceptable. About 6 weeks before the show, WWF began running television commercials advertising the card. No matches were announced, but Doc Hendricks said all your favorite WWF stars will be in Scranton, including Stone Cold and DX. 2 weeks before the card, after most tickets had already been sold, they announced the card, and the only one of the previous 3 of the card was Triple H. And as it turned out, since he was injured, instead of replacing him with Austin or Michaels had been previously advertised, they replaced him with Jeff Jarrett. Then with no announcement made the building at all, Owen Hart came out for his match, and his opponent turned out to be Kama Mustafa. I know they can get away with this because of the disclaimer they print at the bottom of the program. However, they should not advertise the top stars when appearing when they know full well they have no intention of sending them to Scranton. I just finished watching an interview with Shane Douglas regarding this topic with WWF and WCW, and he said there was absolutely no excuse for this practice, and I'm in total agreement. Before I get to Meltzer's comments, what is your thoughts on that, Mike Belcaster, and does it leave you hot wanting you get to a show and they false advertise somebody?
Man, I don't know. I was will put myself in 1998 as a little kid I remember going to these house shows at the Rosemont Horizon, the Allstate Arena, as they call it now. I was always just going to see wrestling. I didn't really care who was on the card until I got into the building. And you would get that little program, you know, you open it up, you get the white piece of paper with the card bill on it. And I mean, WCW did it, WWF did it. It wasn't like an uncommon practice. So it was always kind of get what you get type deal when you watch wrestling, right? You know, shit happens. You get in there, they could start an angle, or Kane comes out and knocks out Stone Cold in a video package, and you wouldn't even bat an eye at it. You'd be, but they should work a little bit more towards having a story why they aren't there, instead of just throwing fucking spaghetti at the wall, seeing what sticks. I think like if you had an advertising for Stone Cold to be there, and DX, maybe have like a video package run of Shawn Michaels, you know, beating up Stone Cold in a parking lot somewhere, and that, oh, this is why they're not going to be there. But what you do get is this, and you get like an explanation behind it. Just no showing and just throwing whatever at the wall kind of fucks over the fan, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a common practice in pro wrestling, and that's, you know, on the independents, it happens all the time. And sometimes it's out of the promotion's control. The guy just no shows the show, and what are you supposed to do? And it is what it is. And for these local indies, they can't just give back the money because they need it to function. And that is the risk you take about buying a ticket. But Meltzer's reaction was interesting as well, because this is going to continue to happen, and it will always happen in wrestling. And you have to just choose whether you're going to take their word for it next time or not. And you just speak with your money in your wallet. But this is what Meltzer says. One of the new advertising tricks is that instead of mentioning actual names, you mention groups such as Four Horsemen versus NWO or the Nation of Domination versus DX. That way you never say that Ric Flair, Hogan, or Shawn Michaels are wrestling on the show, but the public figures that they are, because they are the leaders of the aforementioned group. And then you either send the secondary members or send the star, but he doesn't wrestle. WWF no doubt planning on sending Triple H to Scranton to headline, and perhaps send Michaels in his corner so they can advertise DX, even though they had no intention of sending HBK to wrestle on the show. So it just is like, you know, I thought about this because this kind of popped in the news where Cody Rhodes had these two shows in Ohio and Florida. They were doing poor numbers, not poor numbers, but like a decently low number as far as house shows go. And they broke the record just by announcing Cody Rhodes. Now, you're going to really piss off a lot of people if you go to that event and you have Cody Rhodes not be there. And I think that's sort of over time, there's some damage. I think if you continue to make people feel a certain way that you're lying about who's going to be on the shows, it's going to damage fandom. But, you know, it is what it is. I think wrestling fans were kind of immune to it. I definitely developed a hard shell as far as this happening, because it's just par for the course of being a fan.
Absolutely, man. Even a company like WWE, who's such a conglomerate, such, you know, the mainstream appeal, got money in the bank, they have a way to fix that kind of shit. If somebody can't make it, like say Cody couldn't make it to those shows, you could film something, you know, get a promo piece, or hey guys, it's Cody Rhodes here. I couldn't make it, but you know, I'm still I love Ohio. I'm here, like it's American Nightmare Family. Like you could do that so easily. He could do it off his fucking cell phone now. You know, it's there's easy ways to bounce around it. Nobody's taking advantage of it.
That's a good point, and I empathize with the indies that it happens to. Obviously, you don't. You know, I go back to the House of Glory thing. I'm stuck on it because I bought tickets to see the Briscoes versus the Lucha Brothers. And, you know, when Rey Fenix got hurt, you kind of assumed it just wasn't going to happen. But then they said it was still happening, like he was going to return from his injury, and it never did. Like he did the autograph signing, took the sling off, and whatever. It is what it is. But that's the type of stuff that a fan may not want to come back because not that it was a lie, but they felt like they were hoodwinked. You know, you want to make sure people get a genuine product that you advertise. And at this point, WWF, the brand isn't so much like people right now, it's like seeing the circus. You're going to see WWE. So I don't think it's much of a problem now. People will be pissed if Cody doesn't show up. Don't get me wrong. But back then, they want to see the stars. You're like, if it's Mark Mero versus Kama Mustafa in the main event, people are not going to be happy. That's not what they came to see. They want to see Austin. They want to see DX.
Yeah. And listen, it took away from the grassroots outreach, you know, like they wouldn't do that at a show in Chicago or New York, but they will in a show at Scranton. You know, I've been to many house shows where it was Austin and Dude Love main eventing, and like you went home happy. You'd get DX versus Stone Cold and you know, whoever at the time, Undertaker, Rock, like it didn't matter. But it's got to suck being in a rural area. You finally get to see what you've been watching on television live in person, and you get Kama Mustafa versus, Mark Merrill for your main event, like it kind of fucking kicks the wind out of you, man. I'd be pissed.
All right, well, it's time to get our fix. It was a good conversation, and obviously, you guys let us know what you think about the false advertising. Have you been a victim of it? Do you feel like it happens to you, or do you like just go see the brand? Like, if you go when AEW is starting their house shows, would you be upset if like they advertise the Elite and they just don't show? Like maybe
It's Sean Dean and Fuego del Sol main eventing the show. It would leave a sour taste in my mouth, man.
All right, well, let's fix that sour taste. Let's get our fix. Let's have the nice taste of an IPA to get this party started. All right, Hogan, you were in the newsletter. I skipped over you actually, but there's still negotiations going on that he potentially is. He hasn't signed with either side, but we know he stays in WCW. But I still imagine that's another fantasy booking thing that we can talk about. Hogan in 1998 WWF. Like, what the fuck does that look like? That'd be insane.
Hogan and Austin. Hogan and Austin.
That's a missed opportunity there. But other than that, I think I'm glad he stayed with WCW.
100%, man.
All right, so let's start with the WWF Monday Night Raw from January 19th, 1998, Fresno, California, the Selland Arena. So this is the night after the Rumble. We're on the road to WrestleMania, as I mentioned. And obviously, Austin winning is at the top of everyone's brain. There's no choice about who he's going to be wrestling as far as what title is he going after. Everybody knows it's Shawn Michaels, and he retained against The Undertaker in a casket match, as we discussed. And he is the top draw at this point. This is a guy you really can't mess up. He's the guy they're passing the golden torch to carry the company to heights that they probably didn't know they were going to reach, but they were aspiring to reach. This was huge. And this is the night after. This is part of the story weaving with the Tyson thing as well that is important. It's a great crescendo at Royal Rumble, but it's about how you continue it and how to build Austin be a bigger star.
100%, man.
All right, so we start this show off with Paul Bearer coming down to the ring, and he comes out, and I think I need to let you lead the way. He's recapping everything about Kane and Undertaker and burning Undertaker alive. This was certainly a weird entry into Raw, especially coming off of Austin winning the Rumble. But these are two main angles. Like Taker and Kane is a angle they are really going hot for, and it was popular. Don't get me wrong; these guys, part of WrestleMania 14's appeal was Taker and Kane and Paul Bearer. So lead us through.
100%. No, and last time we see Paul Bearer before the pay-per-view, he comes out, he's just all over the place. His hair, he looks like he just woke up in a Buick in the parking lot of the arena. Like he was all messy, his hair was messed up. But we get Grandmaster Paul Bearer here. He comes out, he's got that smirk on his face. He's ready to talk about Kane. It was great, man. He goes over hit the anarchy. I had you fooled. He kind of got a Jim Cornette going on there with that, but it was fantastic, man. I mean, Paul Bearer really setting the tone that Kane's his little baby. He wants Kane to take over, take the Undertaker out. I mean, they talk about lighting the Undertaker on fire, and he's really, really putting that statement. Undertaker is never coming back. And as a kid, I was fucking, hook, line, sinker. I was like, man, they killed Taker. What are we gonna do? We got Kane, this beast, and it was insane, man. Really good storytelling for the time, and still to this day. I mean, it really put over the Brothers of Destruction. Love it, man.
So the biggest thing I pulled away from this, obviously, it's good storytelling, and Paul Bearer is awesome, but there was a girl in the audience just absolutely weeping. She was so upset about Taker, and she legitimately thought Taker was gone. And man, she didn't see 94, man. You didn't see the 94 Rumble? Come on, you didn't see that?
Listen, man, that was, like I said, the last week, bring it up again, the fans are probably at the peak of being as passionate as they are for the business. I mean, then that's why that girl's weeping. She's hook, line, sunk into it. She believes it. She bought that ticket to see Undertaker. False advertisement. They killed Undertaker at Royal Rumble. She's crying. She's mad. She's pissed.
So we get the Undertaker's gong echoing throughout the arena. People think they pop huge for it, think he's coming out. A casket's rolled down, and of course, we know it's Kane. Comes out, and Paul goes from being scared to absolutely elated. And then he presents Kane to everyone as the last surviving member of Undertaker's family. We're going to get more of that story, but there's so much deep storytelling that goes into this Taker stuff and burning people alive in Kane's face. And if you really follow the full story, like Kane wasn't actually burned. It was all in his head and all that stuff. But I don't know if they've ever gone as deep into the backstory of these meta fake characters into what it is. And people bought it. Like, that's the other thing is, as insane as it may be to explain to a non-wrestling fan, people really bought into the Taker and Kane story and bought that they were brothers, even though they knew they wanted to believe they were,
I went so long, so like a ridiculous amount of time going, yeah, that's Undertaker's brother. It's Kane, man. I mean, probably up until a good 15 years ago, I was hook, line, and sunk, man. I was like, man, yeah, that's Kane. Kane is Undertaker's brother.
So we get a DX segment to bridge the gap between this and the first match. It's just them being silly and talking to each other and building up the fact that Shawn beat Taker, and obviously Triple H is putting down Owen Hart. So there's a lot of conversation there, and this is what the show is. It's really highlighting these characters any way that we can. We saw a great on Wednesday on Dynamite. MJF was weaved into 3 or 4 segments of the show. This was the successful recipe for a good Raw, was to put your money makers throughout the show. We see Stone Cold multiple times. We see DX. Like, if it's working, put them on the show in any way you can.
100%. And just to like follow through, it's really consistent storytelling, and it adds so much more to the characters they're putting over. Like MJF came out of that looking like as MJF he can, and it was told throughout the whole night, so you kept wanting to see more of it. It was great. I love the way they did it, and I mean, obviously it stems from here, and they're doing it with DX throughout this whole Monday Night Raw. It's so perfect. Like that's a good wrestling storytelling, man. I love it.
Absolutely, and I agree, man. I think that's a lot of the recipe that's been missing on shows, where it feels disjointed, where matches just feel like they exist on a playlist somewhere. But this is an example of weaving it throughout the show and setting the tone for the night of the different characters you're going to be seeing, whether they're in the back, whether they're cutting a promo in the ring, or whether they're in action in their gear. So that's a huge part of what made the Attitude Era so great, because the stories felt very had wrinkles and had a lot of different details.
100%, man. That's why I love when the Austin had the pager out. It was coming out stunning everybody. Like it built up. It made you want to see Austin succeed, and they do a great job with it.
So we open up with the Disciples of Apocalypse taking on the Nation of Domination, and this is Kama Mustafa and D'Lo Brown represent the Nation, and obviously Skull and 8-Ball for DOA. This match is not great. I'll be honest with you. It ends in a double DQ. So not great. I mean, this is sort of par for the course. We mentioned short matches in the house show. This was the same during the actual telecast, and this was just about continuing the story with the Nation and Shamrock, getting people there, Rock and Mark Henry, all the dissension with the Nation. Definitely important to talk about. But there's really not a lot of work rate going on here. But there's some good workers. Like D'Lo Brown has some highlights in this, and you see some of the glimmer of the future star he would be. But not a lot going on. Double DQ, and the finish is sort of, we made fun of WCW for bad finishes, but Raw 98 has a lot of DQs, no contest, countouts, and it didn't really matter what the finish was. It's about the swerve, bro.
Yeah, listen, bro, that's how we book it. That's how we do it. But a great character work here, like DOA.
Sure.
Another group of guys that I did not give a shit about, like as a kid. But like, seeing the Nation get in the ring, and they do their pose. And you see, 8-Ball behind him, giving, fuck you. Like you see the angst between the teams. It's great. And then you throw in The Rock and Mark Henry and Ahmed Johnson. Like it's so much flavor for such a shitty match. Like, so it makes it rise above what it normally would be. So I enjoyed the shit out of it.
Right, just to correct myself, Farouk was involved as well, as this was a 6-man tag. So this was for the AEW Trios Championship, DOA versus the Nation Domination. And the ending was weird too, because it was just all 6 guys in the ring wrestling, and the ref just threw that in the match because he couldn't get control. Like, I don't know. And the fans just booed because like the match didn't end that way. There was no weapons involved. It's just people weren't abiding by the tag rules. But of course, we get Rock and Mark Henry out. We got Ahmed Johnson coming out to help DOA, and then Shamrock clears the ring with a chair. Good shit to end the match.
Yeah.
And good character work, as you mentioned, but finish left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, who gives a shit, right? It was one of those things.
So we get a hearse arriving to the arena. And of course, everyone is assuming it's Taker. And then, of course, we get the infamous Vic Venom WWF magazine promo, which is must see. I sent it to you in chat in the Shot of Nostalgia chat. Vince Russo, man, talking about the dirt, talking about WWF magazine. We need a Vic Venom drop. I'm not just saying that. I know we say we need drops of certain things. We need a Vic Venom drop for the next episode. I got to talk to Chad about it, or I could just cut it myself. I figure I can figure it out. We need a Vic Venom drop on this show because I don't know what he says in it, but he has to say something like where he's just like, go fuck yourself or something. We need that in the show.
You want the dirt? I got the shovel. It's that.
That's what we, that's right. That should be right
perfect.
after happy. That sets up the tone for happy hour. That's what we need.
Yeah, but listen, it was funny to see Russo with character. Well, I mean, not character, but I mean, trying to be this hard ass, talk about magazines because nobody fucking cares about magazines anymore. So it's like it's so out of place in 2023, but it's hilarious because you're like, fuck Vince Russo first off, but then he's like, bro, you want the dirt? I got the shovel. You want a real shooter? Come to Vince Russo's Wild Wild West, bro. It was terrible. It was great.
I think everyone talks about Paul Heyman's story where he like snuck in as a photographer for Studio 54 and then started. Think about Vince Russo's story. The dude was a writer or publisher for an editor or whatever the fuck he was for WWF magazine, and then he became the head booker for the hottest time in wrestling history. Like that's insane.
And it's absolutely insane, especially after watching these Vic Venom promos.
All right, so lead the way with our next match here. We have Mark Merrow taking on Tom Brandi, the aforementioned Mark Merrow. He's not getting Butterbean at WrestleMania, but he gets Tom Brandi here on the 19th January Raw.
And I totally heard Tom Brady the first time I was watching. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? But I mean, pretty again, a pretty pointless match. We get Mark Merrow with short hair, which I think this is a better, well-suited look for him. He didn't have like the long greasy hair here. He was rock and roll, man. He looked good. He just couldn't wrestle for shit. A lot of stuff here with Sable, fun. Miro's just not a fan favorite. And he really isn't. And I think the crowd was behind Tom Brandi here. I want to know what happened to Tom Brandi down the future though, because like he seemed like he had potential. He looked great. He was rocking the gimmicks. Like
he was wearing those
wild,
the FBI ECW tights. Like I think he stole what's his name's gear, Nunzio's gear, or what's Johnny Stamboli, that his gear. That's I was searching for it. Johnny Stamboli.
It's so good, but like, yeah, I mean, this was just I don't know, Sable's over. Sable's the most important thing out of this match, and she's got some good spots here, but like nobody cares. I don't give a shit. It was good. Merrow defeats Tom Brandi, of course, because nobody remembers who fucking Tom Brandi is. Yeah, and it was quick, man, but it was good storytelling between Sable and Merrow. I'll give it that.
We're getting the actual working on screen thing with Sable and Merrow, and that's going to be the demise of Mark Merrow completely because Sable takes his spotlight, and that's maybe obviously she's eventually his wife too. Like, so this is all sort of muddying the water for Mark Merrow. He would have saved himself a lot of heartache if he wouldn't have teamed with Sable on screen. So this is sort of one of those butterfly effect decisions that Mark Merrow probably wishes he can have back.
Yeah, Mark Merrow's been in the grunt of a lot of those bad decisions.
So as you mentioned, Mark Merrow gets some serious heat, and that's a credit to him where like people really shouldn't care about Tom Brandi, but they did because Mark Merrow was pissing them off so bad. And I think it was some genuine heat, and the crowd's hot. So like it feels like everybody has some reaction to them, but Mark Merrow was getting a lot of boos in a very good way.
Yeah, I liked it. It was like I said, it wasn't a terrible thing. It was just,
All right, so before we get to the next match, we have DX walking around the hearse, acting like Taker's going to be in there, but we get a bunch of girls popping out, squealing, and pull them in, and Chyna just shuts the door and looks at them. Interesting segment. DX, again, littered all over the show, and then we get another limo pulls up, and the announcers hype up. It's Mike Tyson and Shane McMahon. Here it is, Iron Mike Tyson, Shane McMahon being his what would be the word? I guess handler is the word for it. Shane McMahon showing him the sights and scenes of Fresno, California.
crazy. And baby Shane too, which is awesome. It's my favorite version of Shane because he looks like he's just a goonie, you know. He's just there and he's like, yeah, I got you, man, I'm gonna take care of you. Like, but it was the pictures, I got visuals of just him and Tyson, you know, just sitting next to each other all the time. It's I love baby Shane, man.
Leads us into our next match here. Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie, the great team of Mick Foley and Terry Funk, taking on the Quebecers, which Quebecers feel like they're weird here. They're wearing interesting gear. This is our good friend PCO from Ring of Honor. Like, he's chilling here. This is a really fun match. I'll be honest with you. I had a good time watching this, and that speaks to the guys that are working this match. Some interesting things going on. Obviously, Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie trying to establish themselves as a tag team. They lose this match because of a DQ. It was needless to be a DQ. They probably could just had Cactus and Chainsaw go over, especially as they build them to take on the New Age Outlaws. You think they'd be the guys to be showcased here. But, you know, Cactus pulls the ref in the claw as Charlie is double teamed, and the bell rings. Quebecers get clotheslined to the floor, and then Charlie flies on all three of them. Terry Funk was taking some risks in this match, and he was not limber. Like, he looked like he almost got caught on the ropes a few times. Yeah, this was definitely interesting, but great. I mean, Cactus and Terry Funk, they're having the time of their life. It's like seeing two best friends get the opportunity to do a school project together. That's what it looks like.
I love the analogy, and it fit perfect. We seen, I mean, Terry Funk, Chainsaw Charlie do a fucking springboard plancha to the outside, basically onto everybody, and it was scary looking. So just to tell you, when Terry Funk does something, and you're like, oh shit, obviously that's the Terry Funk way to do things. This was fun though. It was really cool. I love seeing Cactus come out with the barbed wire bat. I love Chainsaw Charlie's like crazy ass gimmick. It's so random and out there, but it works. It fits so perfectly.
And you got that awesome figure out of it too. That just one came out a couple months ago, right?
Hell yeah, man. And we got a Mattel Chainsaw Charlie, man. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I think that before that, the only Chainsaw Charlie was that mini WWF Jax one, right? That was the only other Chainsaw Charlie was there a bone cruncher of him?
I don't think we got we might have gotten a bone cruncher, but we did get one from Jax. I think we got two from Jax actually in the classic superstars line, because we got a deluxe one, which was like the bigger ones. And the cool thing about the Jax ones, they use actual pantyhose and put them over his head.
Wow,
so
cool.
it was like, it was super dope. So when you bought it, you're like, oh, this is badass. And like the Mattel one's cool, but it's molded on. It looks fucking weird, but I'm a fan. Give me more Chainsaw Charlie shit, man.
Give me more Terry Funk and Mick Foley. Anytime they're on our screens, it's great stuff. Yeah. All right. So DX is in the back again. They're talking to the small wrestlers. And remember, in 1998, it's the smaller division, the micro division, as Vince McMahon puts it. And they're talking about where Taker is. Triple H making jokes at their expense, saying he doesn't want any short answers. China picks him up and they start talking in Spanish. So again, trying to build more context about where Taker is, more DX banter. And this is sort of feels like it fits on this type of show. So
yeah, listen, it's fun. And I kind of like I do enjoy the comedic shit from DX during this little stint right now. I think it's fun. It's very lighthearted, like, you know, I don't want no short answers, you know, Triple H, like, it's just, it's gimmicky, fun, stupid shit. And like we see throughout the night, they're weaving DX through the night, which is, like, I mean, like we said, way AEW did it with MJF. It was perfect. And it tells a very more detailed story. It makes you want to see more of it. So I dig it. I thought it was a good segment.
Absolutely. There's a lot of emphasis on them, and Shawn Michaels being the world champion, Triple H being injured. He's the current European champion. So that's, you know, part of what needs to happen as far as keeping them in our mindset. But we got a Mike Tyson hamming up with WWF officials before moving to the next match. We have Jeff Jarrett defending his NWA North American Heavyweight Championship against Blackjack Bradshaw. Lead us through this match. This is a Jim Cornette special with NWA Forbidden Door shit.
Yeah. So a bunch of who gives a fucks come out with Jim Cornette now. we got Rock and Roll Express. We had what's it called? Jeff Jarrett. They make their way down there. They're really trying to put Jeff Jarrett over here. Like, it's a big deal. And I like the concept of this story. Again, when I was a kid, I had no horse in this race. I didn't give a shit. And you throw Bradshaw in the mix. This was totally switch to Nitro, see what the hell's going on moment. I didn't care, but now I was clamoring for Bradshaw to get, you know, that clothesline from hell and take out somebody's head, man. It wasn't a bad match. It just lacking context. I don't know. I like don't see where they're going with this NWA thing. It was just a weird thing, but I love seeing Cornette out there. They beat the piss out of Bradshaw at the end of it. Cornette's whacking him with the racket. Like it's good stuff. Still, I gotta see where the finish line is here, but yeah, to see somebody take out Bradshaw like that and not get a hot, I'm gonna fuck you up next week, Bradshaw. It was a
Right.
really impactful thing. It was cool. I enjoyed it, but yeah, Wyndham was out there. Wyndham looked great. It was fun, man. And Wyndham fucking turned on Bradshaw.
I
It was
just
fun.
like, yeah, it was weird to see Rock and Roll being heels too. Like that's the one thing I looked at
Yeah,
this, that like they're perpetually baby faces everywhere they are. And like, I don't know, someone that knows their career a little bit better than me would have to look at it, but I don't recall anywhere that they've been a heel. That's their gimmick, is this their faces, and seeing them work heel with NWA, and that just spoke to where the culture of wrestling was, where they're about work rate. And I think this could have worked in a utopian type of way where you can give it the time and the right characters if you found a way to make it work. And I think they could make something like this work in a GCW. If you did something like
yeah,
this with the characters, you bring them in, and we see bits and pieces of it with Kerry Morton coming in with the NWA Junior Heavyweight Championship. He gets immense heat with that crowd. But if they did something like this, where you have this subculture of the whatever is the opposite, so you bring in like traditional wrestling, that's what gets heat. I think the problem here is that they weren't made to feel important. And I think that a lot of the
yeah,
characters in this story were looked at as secondary. And I think looking back now, it had a lot of potential. And there's a lot of guys in this program that probably could have made it better, but it never had the steam. It felt like it was on its island on its own, destined to fail. And it definitely was someone's idea that a lot of people were against, because you could just tell there's no momentum behind it. It stands on its own. We talk about intertwined stuff of storytelling throughout the show. This had nothing else but this one segment, and then it was gone.
yeah. This is very like corny pitched it. Vince is just like,
Yeah.
whatever. Bruce was like, fuck that. We're not doing this. This is stupid. Like, but no, you bring up GCW too. It's very important because this is basically what not Cornette, what Cardona did. Cardona
Yeah.
came in complete opposite of what GCW was. It made it work, right? They kind of dropped the ball here in WWF with it. It would have been awesome if they really hit a spark with it. Kind of would have been like an early inception of the invasion, right? Like it would have been
Yeah.
cool. But they didn't have enough gas to put the pedal to the metal.
Yeah, I mean, there is some, and I guess it's a story that shouldn't get too much credit, because it's like it's pretty obvious that you want to bring like a counterculture thing into it. But this could have worked. Let's put it, and it looks better now, but at the time, this was the drizzling shits. Like this was something
Yeah,
that, like I as a kid I hated. I'm sure most people look at it very in the same way, because it just doesn't
yeah.
age. To me, like it didn't fit, and it's not a fair comparison, but it just was it sucked. It was a go to your fridge and look for more food segment. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
no, absolutely. Channel flipper. So, but I mean, it had potential. It could have been great, but
All
whatever.
right, so we get DX in the locker room again. And the lights dim, and then we also get Vince talking about MLK as well throughout these segments, and then we come back from commercial, what would be a commercial, and Undertaker's music echoes, and he or someone is descending from the ceiling. The lights are out with random flash of light, and a figure's in the ring, and of course, it's that fucking bastard HBK dressed as Taker. The the RVD cross-eyed Shawn Michaels, and Triple H comes out limping to the ring. China's in tow, and they have a barbecue and grill. So I guess lead the way here. This is the infamous suck the cook apron that we see for the first time. They got
Yeah,
marshmallows. This is as DX as it gets, man.
so I was gonna say this is everything you could possibly imagine out of a DX segment, and this is where the hokiness of DX came from. I remember when DX came back in like was it 2006?
Yeah,
And it was
Vince
just
likes
Triple
cocks,
H.
that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like it was so gimmicky that it was. I guess it still worked, but I mean this really is the original callback to it. I mean they were just out there doing goofy shit. I mean Triple H is just I mean they're making fire and burn jokes the whole night. They're throwing sausages and salami, and Shawn Michaels is innuendo up the ass here. It was a fun, awesome little just DX segment, man. I mean, they're really going over everything. They're talking about Owen Hart. They're talking about Stone Cold. They're, they got jokes and jokes. They're wearing the stupid chef hats. Like the second I seen it, I was like, "Oh, this is going on, hell yeah!" But I thought it was fun, man. I mean, they make everybody happy. They're throwing marshmallows in the crowd at the end of it. Where are you going to go wrong here?
Yeah, I agree. And this is the first time Shawn Michaels really uttered the name Stone Cold, and I
Yeah,
think that was important too. And this is similar
absolutely.
again to bring it back to today. And bringing Cody Rhodes and mentions Roman Reigns, but you don't have them interacting quite yet. You're building the tension where people understand they're going to be facing off in a big match, but you're setting the tone. And they have right now their own stories going on. Obviously, DX is focused on something else. Stone Cold is going to be right in their radar soon, but they're finishing off their stories. And for the road to WrestleMania, they're hopping back on that road and getting towards that main event where Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels are going to collide. I'm most curious about the build to the match in Boston at WrestleMania 14, because it's so interesting to see both those guys, especially where they went, and Shawn Michaels had the resurgence after he had to retire. Both personalities at not a young age, but at the beginning of their real superstardom. Well, Shawn at the end, Austin at the beginning of it. It feels like this is going to be so interesting to see how they react to each other, because we get some interaction later on when he's commissioner or he's the sheriff of Raw and Shawn Michaels come back, all that shit in 2003. But this is a different Shawn Michaels, man. This is a dude that's like not in the good headspace, and I'm curious to see where it goes.
100%. He's burnt out. He's ornery. He's angry. He's fed up with shit. Like it's interesting to see. But if I remember correctly, the build is great, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, there is definitely some Shawn Michaels nod and winks to the dirt sheets in here too. He talks about laying down for nobody. He says Austin has quite the winning streak, but he needs to call all in the locker room and those sent down south what happened to them when they faced him. So definitely like kind of alluding to golden shovel type of shit where like he has the Booker's ear where he can get people buried and set up and down the card because he's a guy that has a lot of say. And Shawn Michaels is leaning on it, similar to like an MJF promo. You see a lot of sort of blurring that line of what's real, what's fake. And Shawn Michaels certainly, who knows where the line was, because he obviously was, like we mentioned before, not in a good headspace.
Yeah, he was over it already.
So we get Iron Mike still having a good time in the back, which leads us to Owen Hart and Los Barricas taking on the Headbangers and Taka Michinoku. This was a mid-card match. Lead us through. There's some good personalities here, Owen Hart and Taka. I think if you take out the Los Barricas, you take away the Headbangers. I think Owen Hart and Taka could have had a banging match.
Absolutely, and that's where we should keep this mid card, emphasis on the mid. It was okay. Again, I think the Headbangers were so over because they had that, like, I don't know, that rock and roll, grungy presence. But I mean, were they that really good? No, they weren't. And listen, like you said, the shine of this was seeing Owen Hart and Taka Michinoku in the ring together. It was okay. It wasn't anything bad. I thought it was fun. I mean, it sucks to see Owen in this space, knowing how talented he is. I think that really sucks. And I mean, we haven't really seen him rise out of that since wrestling Brett, right? Maybe. I mean, he didn't really have a very prominent run, which is, it's a sad thing to see. But I mean, it is one of those things. We got what we got. It was okay. It wasn't anything bad. It wasn't anything great. Would I rewatch it again? No. Was there anything important happen? No. It was fun to watch Owen and Taka kind of run around here. It was okay.
Absolutely. I mean, you said it best. I mean, this is a mid-card match. Owen Hart deserves more, and especially when there's only about a year left in his life. It's like, damn, what the potential of this? Like, Owen should be at the top of the card. I'll say that all day. He's one of the most missed opportunities for his guys that should have won the world title. Made the argument 1994 in the cage match at SummerSlam. I still think he should have beat Brett for the title. He had a right to, especially since he beat him at WrestleMania 10. But I'll go off all day about it. Owen's one of my favorites of all time, and it sucks to see him in this spot where like he's being wasted. I mean, he gets the win here. Let's not dispute that. He makes Jesus tap to the sharpshooter, gets all his spots, but Owen Hart deserves more than the European title in the mid card. He deserves to be in the world title picture.
Yeah, and I mean, even in this match, he shined very well on the show. It's crazy. Like it sucks to know that like the biggest thing that happens in the next year is his feud with Jason Sensation. Like, it's, I'm not a nugget. Like it sucks, man. It really takes the wind out of it, but it is what it is. I think Owen would have had a great career if he was booked better, especially here.
So Michael Cole wonders if Owen Hart will accept Triple H's challenge next week, and he accepts. And of course, we get Tyson is in with the Nation in the locker room, And we lead up to the Intercontinental Championship. It's Ahmed Johnson getting a shot against The Rock. This is a really short match. Two interesting characters. Ahmed Johnson and The Rock are tied in this nation feud. Rock is, this is back when the IC title really was the launch point to the next eventual world champion. And I think that's why you going back to what you're saying about Meltzer's sort of projections for where Ken Shamrock will be in the coming years. He's in this IC title feud, whether he's going to win the IC title from The Rock or not. Doesn't really matter. I think the fact that he's in that spot, he probably recognizes he's a guy that WWE or WWF at the time projects to be in the main event. Rock is obviously going to be in the world title picture soon. People don't realize how soon it actually will be. I mean, at the end of this year, a Deadly Game Survivor Series, we're going to see him win the championship as joining the, the corporation, right? That's happening this year. Like, that is absolutely insane to me in November, how much changes from February until November. But this is, again, good match. Ahmed Johnson, underrated character. It's not about work rate, it's about character rate. And this was a match that just kind of builds on the story. We got Rock getting thrown into the steel steps. Mark Henry comes out. Rock gets rolled back into the ring. Henry has a chair. Rock gets hit with the spine buster, and Henry's almost too late with the chair and wallops. Rock wins with the rock bottom. And Ahmed Johnson is now sort of jobber level as far as like Vader. Like, so what we get Ken Shamrock keeping that feud going, which is crazy because they wrestle at WrestleMania. This feud's going to continue from all the way now until WrestleMania. They just wrestled at the Rumble too. Like they're constantly locked up. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's and good booking too. It's dude, it's crazy. Like I never knew the backstage shit with Ahmed Johnson. So I was always wondering why he was in this low spot on the card, because he was always a very prominent looking individual, had so much potential. But I mean, now he's jobbing to The Rock for the IC title. It's crazy.
So I know it's not this show because we've seen the People's Elbow a few times. It doesn't have the pomp and circumstance that it has, but we saw the People's Elbow in this show, and it's like it's weird because he doesn't have the same whatever. Like, he doesn't take the whole pad off. He does the People's Elbow in this, and it's funny to see where it goes. Like, to see his first, the inception and the idea of it. It's similar like the Scotty Too Hotty worm. Like, it just came out of nowhere. So the People's Elbow is crazy.
It's fun watching the fans get behind it and try to like see come to the bigger picture where it's one of the most electrifying moves in sports entertainment.
So we get a Cactus Jack and a Tyson backstage segment, which is cool. And then DX is now talking to Tyson, which this is sort of important to see because eventually Tyson's relationship with DX is one of importance leading up to WrestleMania. And Tyson is yeah, exactly. For whatever reason, dude can't do suck it. Like he can't do it no matter what. He can't do it.
His back's broken. It's
spinal.
It's spinal. It's so
we have the Godwins, for whatever reason, getting a tag team championship shot against the New Age Outlaws. Lead us through this match here. It's the main event of the show here, and talk about what went on here.
Yeah, I can't remember too many good Godwin matches, to be honest with you, but this was fun. I really enjoyed this. The Outlaws coming out like farmers, really throwing. I mean, I wouldn't say farmers, kind of rednecks, right? We'll go with that, but they're really digging into the Godwins. But yeah, man, I mean, the New Age Outlaws obviously aren't breaking down from their hype right now. It's one of the highest things they're doing. So I mean, we get a pretty decent match, a lot of good back and forth, but I mean the New Age Outlaws continuing to shine, continuing to be that entertaining but also force to be reckoned with in the ring. I love the New Age Outlaws here. I think this is, I know they're not completely DX Outlaws yet, but I think this is a really important moment for them. They're shining here. They are the tag champs. They're doing great. It's must see TV on the show, which is good. I really dug it, man. I thought it was fun.
100%. And the thing with the New Age Outlaws is they are the champions, and it feels like there's nobody else that can win them. I mean, that's pretty much why WrestleMania 14 is Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie, because I mean, the Goblins were never going to be champions. DOA is never going to be a champion. Like, there's so many teams that are just meaningless. And we talked about the tag division being the Achilles heel of this year. It doesn't damage them to that point, but no one was beating the Outlaws like that. And eventually who beats them? Like, it takes a while to build up other teams. And I just think that what's the point of the Godwins? Like, cause they're never going to win the tag titles. You know what I mean? Like, that's why eventually when you broke them up and Midian did his own thing, I don't know, they just seem meaningless. It's weird. Yeah. It's like a very old school WWF type of thing where you just have teams for teams and they're never going to win the championships.
Absolutely. And this year's got a lot of transitions like that. I mean, we are coming from off of the goofy era of WWF, and we're getting less characters and more realism, and the Godwins just don't fit that mold, man. I mean, they're a goofy tag team that should be on the Hasbro line, It's one of those
Yeah.
things. It's not like anything that lives up to where you're like, man, you remember how many barn burners the Godwins had? No, it was just like they were gimmicky rednecks that would come out to the ring and job, and like they served a purpose, but it was it was never my cup of tea. I never got behind.
So what our cup of tea was this ending segment main event. Vince McMahon comes out before a commercial break. Then Vince comes in the ring. He's introducing the baddest man on the planet, and Mike Tyson comes out.
I hear it. The baddest man on the planet.
Tyson is just so excited to be in the ring. And interesting enough, I don't remember this at all, and I'm sure this is just completely glossed over in history. Gives a shout out to Bruno Sammartino, which I'm sure pissed Vince off. He still had that lifelong feud with him. Tries to say Nikolai Volkov, but can't, which is so funny too.
It's spinal.
And then Vince says that announces that on March 29th in this very ring. And then we get the glass break. Here comes Austin, and a plethora of officials come right behind him. Shane wants Austin gone. You're ruining this. Take it from here, man. This is like, I want you to lead the way. Paint the picture for everybody that, I mean, everyone's seen it, but really just kind of give us the context of what this really meant to Raw.
Yeah, no, I mean, we go right into it. As you said, Shane's like, get him out of here. We don't want him. The imagery here, though, too, when that glass hits, the crowd erupts. Like, I'm telling you, the most passionate shit you could watch on wrestling is probably this little buildup here. But everybody wants it. Everybody's clamoring to see Austin and Tyson face to face. I mean, we got Jim Ross. This is the infamous moment. Tyson and Austin. Tyson, like we're oh my god, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it, man. It's great. But Vince is, come on, Austin, what are you doing here? Why are you messing up my moment? And Stone Cold ain't giving a shit. He's I'm sick and tired of seeing Mike fucking Tyson out here. And like you're falling with it, man, because we're on Austin's side. Obviously, we're like, what is this boxer doing here in the wrestling business? It's crazy, but Austin ain't having it, man. We get that infamous stare off. We get the cops pulling off, like everybody pulling them off apart each other. We get a little bit, that little taste of what could be, and it sells Mania as it is. You could have did this the week of. This could have been the perfect go home for Mania. This was such a huge thing, man. When Austin flips off Tyson, I little me lost my shit. My dad lost. Everybody lost their shit. It was so fucking great, man. And I love that they had they're literally cuffing them. They're pulling them back. They're trying to get everything. It's just such a beautiful moment for pro wrestling. So well done.
And it was so simple, too. It was offering the handshake, refusing the shake. Austin respects what he's done, but when he steps in the ring, it's a whole new world, and I want a piece of that ass, and threatens Vince. Austin doesn't agree that he's the best. He can kick Tyson's ass, and then you get the flip-off, as you mentioned, then the shove, and then all hell breaks loose where everybody's there. And there's nothing like a good wrestling pull-apart. When it's done well, it's done. It's one of those things that can really sell a segment or storyline and put something over, and this was one of those things where it's chaos and it feels real because the guy like Tyson's unpredictable. No, but he's a guy who just bit someone's ear off on pay-per-view. So who knows what's scripted, what's not. And that's where wrestling people were ecstatic, and people that weren't typically watching. A lot of that audience, with the increase of the appeal of Mike Tyson, were watching like, I know wrestling scripted, but that wasn't supposed to happen. And that, similar to the NWO stuff with the stuff we talked about in 96, that really made people tune in and want to see what happens next.
Yeah, I can't tell you how much just the beauty of it all. Like just reliving it again. I just goosebumps running up and down the spine. It's such a beautiful moment, and this is the top of the mountain for pull apart wrestling. Nobody did it better than this moment here. Like this was the best, and really solidified the importance of Tyson being there. The hatred built there between Austin and Tyson. Like whatever they do at Mania, put the blinders on. You don't care at this point. You just want to see Tyson and Austin in the ring after this little confrontation. And this is the massive concept of water cooler talk, because the next week, this is all we hear on every news station is the oh my God, Mike Tyson almost killed somebody. Stone Cold almost attacked
Yeah.
Mike Tyson. And it's great buildup, man.
Yeah, the thing is, you got to give them some credit. Like there's a million things they could have done. There's the crazy amount of we talked about in the newsletter where we were talking about how to bring people in, and there's a million ways they could have done it wrong, but they did it absolutely perfectly right. We talked about the simplicity of the segment. They could have done something a little bit overdrawn, where they just kind of had too much details and it made it look bad. It protected both guys. Like Mike Tyson didn't have to do anything extravagant. It made him sort of stay in character so people could actually think it was real. It was great. I mean, you got to give them a lot of credit. And this set the tone for, not hyperbole, for the rest of the Attitude Era. It's almost like this was the kickoff. And this is why it's in every video package that they show of wrestling highlights at its height. This is something that can't be replicated. And it's one of those moments. It's magic. It truly is.
100%. And big shout out to Mike Tyson for keeping in character. Like you see him smirk a little bit, like when he's in there, like giddy, you know, like I would, if I was a big wrestling fan and a huge boxer and a big personality, like I would have a hard time keeping my shit together here. Tyson sells it, man. And like viciously, you know, and it was so good, so damn good.
Which leads us to the next Raw, January 26, 1998, from Davis, California, the Davis Recreational Hall. And this Raw is the fallout from the incident that we talked about. It's preparation for the In Your House, the first ever No Way Out, No Way X when they used to dance. Very, very cool. This is Nitro still beating them, a 3.5 across the board for this Raw. Nitro got a 4.7, which, you know, now this is something that it's going to take time for them to catch them, but they're building some momentum because there's a lot to be said about it takes time to build an audience. And some of those casuals are going to stick around throughout the height of the Attitude Era.
Yeah, 100%. And the funny thing is too, is when they hit that third hour mark, like a lot of those viewers came in that first hour because they had the hour up on WWF. So, I mean, work it any way you possibly can. You're getting those viewers because of that first hour. I'm sure a lot of channel flipping was going on, especially in this era with Tyson and Austin, man.
So we get our opening match here. It's Mark Henry taking on Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock gets the win via DQ. This is more Nation storytelling. So the members of the Nation calling for him to come on down. Shamrock brings Ahmed, and out comes a backup. And now they're calling out for someone else, and DOA comes out riding their bikes. Crush is not there because obviously he got hurt. So that is something that we talked about in the newsletter last week. So DOA riding their bikes down. This match is short, but the Nation definitely get involved in this match. Rock grabs the belt, and the fans have been chanting he sucks the entire time. Nation retreats and heads to the back, and Shamrock wins via DQ. So that's the end of the match. I mean, it's something that is leaves us wanting more for both the characters, and it's interesting to see both Shamrock and Mark Henry.
Yeah, very cool. Like it's I mean, just to see where both of their careers went. I mean, Mark Henry going for talk about longevity for Mark Henry. I mean, he's somebody who is booked right, and he probably does not get enough credit for the character he was in the wrestling business, man. But very cool to see them kind of squaring off here. Mark Henry's a baby, Shamrock's doing his thing. It was fun. The Rock, fucking hot as hot can get with that crowd. So good.
Yeah, Mark Henry had to overcome a lot because of people forget like that he was looked at as a bust, like he couldn't get it together. And then he had that resurgence later on. I think it was persistence that led it through, and the hard work created a Hall of Fame career. But there was a time, I think 2002, 03, I think 03 when he came back, managed by Teddy Long with Rodney Mack. Like that was like an era where like Mark Henry was looked at as like, I wonder if they could do anything with him. That's something that, and then
that's
yeah. Well, remember he came back on SmackDown during the brand split, and he was like, this is the first time we saw him in a bit. And he had the same Big Show thing where they were sending him to OVW to like lose weight and learn how to wrestle. And he overcame a lot. So let's just say, I mean, he was a guy signed to a long-term deal because of the powerlifting. And I think it was like a 20-year deal. Like that's what it was when they signed him back in 1996, 1997, something like that.
It's insane. All the way up until you taking his picture in the Cheetah box. It works out great. Things come full circle.
Dude, I was holding his phone in my hand, and so I'm taking pictures in there. And first of all, the phone was cracked, so I guess he's just super strong. He's breaking phones, but the amount of notifications on this man's phone, it was buzzing the whole time. So either it was Instagram notifications or someone was texting him. It was blowing up. So I had Mark Henry's the world's strongest phone in my hand, taking a picture of him in that Cheetah box. So somewhere there's a picture of him. I took it of Mark. So Serendipity of shot nostalgia. There we go. More
Gotta love
serendipity. All right, our next match
so
here:
great.
Jeff Jarrett and Barry Windham team up against LOD. And dude, LOD is being like, what is going on with this? By the way, like they come out and they lose to Barry Windham and Jeff Jarrett. I guess take the lead. Tell me what you saw in this match and what did you hate about it?
I hated a lot of it. I saw a lot of lost hope on LOD, man. They're really booking LOD into like they're into this little corner where they're making them job out to basically everybody. And I don't know if this is because problems backstage or what. I mean, eventually we do see the resurgence of LOD 2000 and it was sunny and it's great, but this is not it. This ain't it. Like this is one of those lackluster kind of matches. It wasn't terrible. It was long, but it wasn't great either. And a lot of hokey shit with the NWA stuff again. But come on, man, you could do better for Legion of Doom, man. You break my heart here.
Yeah, we're close to Drunk Hawk falling off a Titantron level, right? That's close here.
Yeah,
like
that's
very
98.
Close. So that's unfortunate, and that's one of like the darkest times of. Because it was like it blurring the reality, and this is some bad shit that they were tying into. So this is probably leading to that, the losing streak. I think that's part of it. So we might be seeing that soon. I know that WrestleMania 14, they're in that battle royal, and I think they win the tag battle royal, something like that. But
yeah,
no direction. They're a team that should be highlighted, especially with the tag division needing some stars. And I don't know, they just look at them as stars of the past, and they look like that.
Yeah, no, they definitely like fit the bill here, and which is crazy because I mean we do see them wrestle for a little longer, and it's just they never get out of like we're well past the good years of Legion of Doom, and it's a sad sight to see.
So we also get a naked Triple H, but the belts are hiding his butt in the front, so that's whatever. And then Chyna's wrapping Triple H's leg, and then Shawn Michaels is asked about Mike Tyson. Triple H answers for him and says Shawn is not ready to be addressed yet. And he just continues to talk about Chyna wrapping his leg and calls himself more of a man than Owen. So two things, building up the Owen Triple H feud. Shawn Michaels talking about wanting to, or allegedly wanting to lure Tyson into join him, which eventually is successful. But yeah, this is a huge storytelling component because we're going to be wondering where Tyson decides to put his allegiance going into WrestleMania.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And it's, I mean, also a very important moment. I mean, we kind of see Triple H slowly taking the helm here. He's the first person to talk, he's the focal piece here. It's crazy.
So we have a next match here. Not much to cover on it. Vader defeated Goldust, and Goldust is wearing Vader-like makeup. It's really all you need to know. And this is sort of, again, Goldust trying to find some level of character. Vader bomb connects. Out comes Kane. Vader goes after him after the match. And yeah, that's pretty much the story of the match. And whatever. This is like sort of the last of Vader we're going to see before he just disappears completely.
Yeah,
but Kane and Vader has a potential to be fun.
Oh my God, this I remember this so vividly, and I didn't think we were gonna say, like I couldn't put the timeline together until we got to hear on Shawn Nostalgia, but I really enjoyed Kane and Vader as a program. I thought it was cool to have two big guys. I mean, little me, bone crunchers, man. I had my Kane with the little karate chop action, the choke slam
with the signature on the leg too. Right? That's the hell yeah,
and your big fat, triple necked Vader figure, man. It was awesome. Those were two of my
Mastodon.
The Mastodon, my two bad man pajamas. But yeah, it looked like it was bigger to me as a kid. Coming back to it, it's like, oh man, they really did Vader dirty here. But yeah, I still enjoyed the shit out of it. I thought it was fun, man. Kane and Vader had a great potential, and I think it was lost, but it was still awesome to see.
So we have a segment quick with Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus in the back leading up to their tag team championship match against the New Age Outlaws. And Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus Jack, as I mentioned, are taking on the New Age Outlaws in the ring. This is a lot of fun. It ends in a DQ, unfortunately, but I kind of am okay with it because you want to build towards WrestleMania. You have to build more story. A lot of good stuff. And this is really one of the best matches I think I've seen. And I know it's a DQ finish, but a lot of good stuff to see from a young New Age Outlaws and grizzled vets, but have a lot left to give to the business. And this was, to me, this was really, really fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it was cool to see, I don't know, this was like the really good beginning of this feud, not necessarily beginning, but a good step in the right direction, kind of giving both teams somebody to look forward. Like, it gave the tag division a little breath of fresh air. And it was cool, man. Terry Funk is just on a fucking roll here. I mean, the moonsault on the
Yeah.
chairs, awesome. Like, I could watch this no matter what it is. You could throw Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie and the Outlaws. Give me a whole fucking year of a run with this. It'd be great.
So the DQ comes with Cactus Jack leaping off the apron and hits a chair over Gunn's head. The ref immediately DQs him, and rightfully so. Road Dogg's laid out after a couple chair shots, and then they put chairs on top of them, and then Charlie fucking moonsaults, as you mentioned, right on top of them.
The best.
Which is insane. Like, fucking
how
awesome.
Can you go wrong with that? Yeah,
Terry Funk's story about learning the moonsault is just fascinating to me, because it's like he teaches himself new tricks to keep himself relevant. Just him learning how to moonsault, it's fantastic.
Watching him do it is still fantastic, and that's again, so much context put into it, because we were just talking about in '95, Terry Funk's retiring. He's done. He's hanging up his boots, and then here we are seeing him do backflips into a pile of chairs. The Road Dogg, it's awesome, man. It's so fucking sweet.
Our next match here, not going to spend too much time covering it, but it's Brian Christopher taking on El Pantera, and the Honky Tonk Man's in the ring doing some intros. So the Honky Tonk Man being a part of the Attitude Era. I know the Memphis, Nashville type of, or Nashville, Tennessee type of vibe here with Jerry Lawler, stuff with Brian Christopher. So El Pantera picks up the win here. It was a decent match, a light heavyweight championship being showcased. Pantera hits the skull crushing finale, which we now know that Miz does, but it's sort of like the stroke. He taunts him and then taunts before Pantera is on the apron, and Brian then hits a sunset flip power bomb. And then so El Pantera gets the win here. But Jerry Lawler has to shake the hand of the winner. I'm not sure if everybody knows, and they did this whole thing where they don't know if Brian Christopher's his son. I don't know how many people actually knew Brian Christopher was Lawler's son, but they played it up for a while. He goes to shake the hand of Pantera, but he low blows him and then punches him in the head. So that little love for the heel work of Jerry Lawler.
You gotta love it, man. But yeah, this wasn't bad at all. It was a fun little slap together match, man. It was Brian Christopher doesn't shine too much. It was a good time to see Brian Christopher shine. I was here for it.
100%. So Charlie and Cactus are in the back, and they talk about it, and they say it was fun despite losing via DQ. DX interrupts them and mocks them for being hardcore legends. And then Outlaws kick the backdrop fence on them, bash them with barrels, and then DX lends a helping hand. So I don't know if this is the official moment the Outlaws join DX, but it feels like they're associated, right?
Yeah. And then what stiff barrel shots too. I always cringed at those. I thought it was the hardest thing you could do. No matter what you do in the ring, you get hit with one of those barrels from the backstage set, man. That shit'll take you out for a month.
After this segment, I'll just do it quick here. The Quebecers defeated the Headbangers in a quick match, and the Quebecers made a comeback, mosh up for their finisher, and then Pierre is rolled up and finished. And then after the match, Quebecers continued to beat down the Headbangers. Who cares? But yeah, that's another tag match here. But lead the way in the next match here. It's supposed to be Triple H versus Owen Hart for the European Championship. We know Triple H is not cleared to wrestle. So
shenanigans. DX shenanigans.
This is Vince Russo type of shit.
Yeah, this is definitely some Russo shit. So we're like you said, we're expecting Triple H to come out. Owen's excited. He's getting his title match, right? We thought it was happening, but instead we get Gold Dust dressed as Triple H and somebody kind of like China. Was it Luna? Did we ever get a clearance?
It is Luna. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, dude. It was so confusing. Like I didn't.
Yeah.
They did not make this clear.
Goldust is in a fucking bad way here this year. we went from Boogie Goldust fighting Cold Scorpio to this. But listen, it was not bad. I thought it was pretty interesting. At least Owen got a little bit more of the shine that he did last week. It wasn't the drizzling shits, but it was still kind of the shits. Yeah, I don't know. It was just Triple H shenanigans. What did they give Goldust to get out there and dresses them for the it was interesting, man.
So this was supposed to be a prank. Obviously, Owen Hart gets the win via submission. It's over. So DX is in the back, all pumped that they tricked Owen, that he had to wrestle him dressed as China. But we had, there's some ramifications here. Sergeant Slaughter heads to the ring. He tells DX that their prank was pretty good, and they pulled another fast one. But Goldust was supposed to play Triple H, and they made fun of Slaughter for obvious implication. Slaughter was so convinced that he decided to make a judgment call, and Owen had a sanctioned match tonight since he won, and he is now the European champion. And Triple H and Shawn throw a fit, but the fans like it. I guess this is the way to get the title, Triple H, because he can't compete. I love that Owen got the title, but there's a different way you could have done this. Like, obviously, could have maybe have one of the Outlaws defend it next week or something, but I don't know. We'll see this feud continue. WrestleMania 14 is going to be Owen Hart, Triple H, but we'll see it continue. This is how Owen Hart gets the European title. This was Vince Russo. I mean, this has his handprint all over it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, bro, just send Goldust out there, make him dress like Triple H. It's fine. Don't worry, the fans won't notice. Messy, 100%. But good.
So yeah, the thing is with that, it's like I don't know, it's disingenuous. Like it makes the titles look meaningless. And I know the world title is very prestigious at the time, but that's really, and IC title feels important, but you don't want the titles to feel like that they can change hands on shit like that. That's, I don't know, that's some goofy WCW at its worst type of stuff.
We'll just blame Vince Russo and we'll call it a day.
All right, so we have our finishing segment here. They were showing the media coverage of Tyson and WWF, and then we get Don King. So tell us about Don King, and then lead us into the Stone Cold to end the show.
Yeah, no, I mean, Don King is a presence, man. I mean, he's all over the place in the 90s. I always had, man, like love for Don King. I don't know why, but like anytime you think of boxing, you thought about Don King, right? So obviously being the voice piece for Mike Tyson, because he's not spinal. He's just talking to it, man. So Don King comes out, he's talking about the electricity and how Tyson and Austin want each other so bad. You could feel it, man. And you're hoping March 29th, we're getting it, baby. But nope. The Nevada State Commissions, they ain't having that shit. They don't want anything about Tyson being in the ring. And it was very believable. I thought this whole thing was gonna get canceled. We had no idea. Tyson was obviously, in trouble with the boxing commission, ripping people's ears off. He was a loose cannon, more so than Brian Pillman. It was crazy, right? But I mean, we're seeing a lot of the buildup here. Tyson is just, a vicious piece, man. We get Stone Cold comes out, and he's typical Stone Cold shit, man. He's pissed off. He don't want Mike Tyson taking the spotlight from him. He doesn't want Mike Tyson in his wrestling ring, because boy, you could be the head boxer of anything you want in this world, but you come into Stone Cold's house, I'm gonna whip your ass. And I mean, it was you're selling everything. I'm right here for it. I love it.
The best line there was, "I'll knock that gold tooth out and turn it into a necklace." That was awesome. And Austin's going to be in Houston at the next pay-per-view, and he said all Tyson has to do is show up, and I'll knock your ass out. So this was a nice little segment.
Yeah.
But this is also what we talked about in the newsletter. All the stuff that was happening behind the scenes, they wanted to figure out how to make sure Tyson's on the ring. They said the Nevada State Commission won't allow him to fight. That's a lie. We know they would have. It's just that's how they're going to air it, that they're going to have Austin get involved elsewhere. And that's why he sides with eventually DX. It's not that he likes Shawn Michaels. He just hates Stone Cold. And that, makes sense.
And Stone Cold's pissing everybody off. I mean, that's he's talking he's given the heat. He's talking the shit. He wants Tyson's ass. And yeah, man, I love the gold tooth thing. Is probably one of the best one-liners to come out of Stone Cold's mouth. So good. But it's amazing way to end the show. So fucking I'm so hyped for Tyson Austin, Shawn Michaels. It's beautiful.
So our next show here is from February 2nd, 1998, Indianapolis, Indiana, the Market Square Arena. And Raw stayed the same, 3.5 off the hours, 3.2 and 3.7. Dude, but Nitro that same week, a 4.9, 5.2, 4.6, and a 5.0. So Nitro continued to run. I mean, you can have conversations about who was doing the better product, but at the end of the day, wrestling fans were at the benefit of both sides fighting each other And a lot of people are watching wrestling on Monday nights, a lot more so than ever.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what was on these nitros pulling these numbers. It's insane.
19, yeah, I'd have to, obviously, you got guys like, how to be a situation, right?
Yeah, just the cards in general. Like, I want to know what was so enticing for people to watch. Like, it's crazy. I mean, you're talking probably some of the most historical shit happening on Monday Night Raw here, but what was going on at Nitro to pull a fucking 5.2? It's insane.
No, true. And so we open up Raw. Shawn is at the podium. Triple H and China at his
Oh,
side, and they're discussing the standards and practices. And they know that they need to be respectful and adhere to what standards and practices want. Triple H comes up and states from the hours of 9 to 10, they will only use the words ass, damn, and hell. They will never use these words that are bleeped, which they say, which is hilarious. And the second hour will only use the same 3 words and what is bleeped out, and then a series of beeps. There'll be less references to sex, and more beeps come, and they curse at each other, and Triple H mouths fuck, and Shawn wants to swallow the leader. So more juvenile type of stuff, but this was the type of stuff that popped a lot of kids watching. That's how DX was so funny as hell.
yeah. No, I mean, infamous. And the best part was, down the road when they finally released it uncensored. And we got to hear, like, oh, the shits, the fucks. And you're like, ah, like little kid use, like, still
Yeah.
laugh. Like, the first time you heard shit on TV. It's amazing. So great. It's just an awesome state of address from DX. I fucking loved it.
Which leads DX out again. They come out dressed as Uncle Sam, picket signs, a bunch of red, white, and blue balloons fall from the ceiling, and Shawn's mic is having issues, which pisses him off. And he talks to Austin and Tyson, and Triple H joins in, and Shawn states that they stand for principles, and Triple H and HBK agree they should let them fight. Triple H states that Nevada Athletic and Vince and Don King should let them fight, and the fans get involved, and here comes Austin. So we get the first interaction between Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold. He gets right in Shawn's face, and he says he's happy that DX supports that he can only beat the living crap out of Tyson. But the fact remains, it doesn't matter when he fights Tyson, as Shawn's ass belongs to him because he won the Rumble. So this is really making the story make sense here. No matter when they face off, the belt is coming to Austin as they can beat anybody's ass in the world, and that's the bottom line. Awesome, awesome moment.
Yeah.
But it's funny, Shawn Michaels playing that heel role, saying, let Tyson and Austin fight. No problem. Doing it remaining. I think my title.
Yeah, no, it felt like Shawn was trying to coward his way out of the main event there. Like it really was, and it was good storytelling because Shawn was kind of like this pissy character, and like I loved it, man. I thought it was so good. Like, go ahead and fight. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Like let them tear each other apart, and you believed it because like Shawn was cocky and he was like fuck it, like whatever. But Austin, man, I loved the build up here, the little seeds being planted. Like no matter what, you're still mine, man. Like I won that Rumble. I ain't backing down. I want that title. I love it, man. Just really importance on the main event picture. So damn good.
Which leads us into our first match here, and it is the tag team partners, Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus Jack, taking on each other. So it's a no contest. I guess lead us through and talk about what is going on here, why they are fighting, and what you liked about it. Because this is sort of two guys going out there. They love to beat the shit out of each other, and that's really the story, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, you hit it right on the head. Like it's just kind of watching Terry Funk and Mick Foley go out there and do their thing, and it's fantastic, even though it ends in a no disqualification. Like it is, or no contest. It's so fun. Like it's just a good pairing. Like how can you watch both these guys and not enjoy it? And I mean, stealing the show almost. I mean, these guys are in a hell of a program. It's not super important, but I mean, it's good quality in ring fucking watch, and you can't go wrong with that. I loved it. Uh, just cool seeing Foley and Funk go out there and do their thing.
The best part was this is building towards that dumpster match at WrestleMania 14 because of the reason why it is a no contest is because of what happened at the end. So we get them at the top of the ramp, and Charlie's walloping him with a ladder, drops it on him, he grabs a chair, throws it on top of him again. He sets up a table. Cactus puts him in the claw. Charlie falls backwards. And then we get a whole bunch of stuff, a ton of packing peanuts inside, and then the Outlaws come out and tie down the dumpster lid, and they're removing some obstacles, shove it off the ramp. This is another famous moment, tossing both Funk and Foley in the dumpster down off the ramp.
Huge.
JR's JR's reaction is amazing too. There are people in there. It's just like so goddamn good.
I didn't, as a kid, I thought they were dead. Like, how could you not? You see this happen, you're like, what's going on? Huge moment. I think this is a very big moment for Road Dogg and Billy Gunn as well. Like, this is them kind of getting their shit out there, but like claiming that like we don't give a fuck who these guys are. We'll do anything to make sure that we keep these titles. And it felt like that. It was such a good moment. I'll still hear those packing peanuts fly out of the dumpster every time I watch it. Like, you just feel it. You're like, damn, like it was such an important moment. Again, the tag division wasn't great here, but this is doing wonders, and miles above where it was before Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie were in the picture.
Yeah, and just seeing Cactus drop the famous elbow, and then they zip tie it shut right after, taking advantage of this like competition that they have, and makes them pay for it. I mean, very good heel work by the Outlaws, and we saw this paid homage with the Acclaim. The Acclaim did, we had that whole thing happen on Dynamite, very, very similar to this, and this is a famous moment that will live forever, and it built up a great tag match, a memorable tag team championship match at WrestleMania, dumpster match, like really awesome.
100%, man.
So we get obviously a whole bunch of people screaming that they're hurt, and recap keeps being shown, and the Outlaws are standing there, and we see a hand start quivering inside the dumpster to really show that they're still in it. Not gonna give up the secrets of how it was done, but wouldn't shock me if Funk and Foley were like, just we'll do some pack of peanuts and then we'll take the bump.
Yeah, I'm sure. Listen, two of the toughest guys in the business, man, and that was one of that almost ended both of their careers. It was such a dangerous spot, but so beautiful, and in the way they pulled it out. It was fantastic. I mean, even having Sonny there, like emotionally distraught, like, oh my god, like it's so fucking great, man.
Yeah, being taken out in the ambulance, and of course they like up the ante with so many things later on. But this was a big deal. Both these guys looked like they were hurt, and they did a whole thing here, oxygen mask, and the whole hospital deal. And we, after this, Billy Gunn has to go into action and take on Owen Hart for the European Championship. So he's like, you know what? We're really happy. I'll see you guys later. Get rid of them. But they're pushing the bar every week, man. And I think they're just trying to keep it up. And this was a latest example of just, you had to see it to believe it. This was one of those famous moments. The reason why people still watch this is because it was shocking.
Yeah, and absolutely. And shock value was huge. Part of like just the lore of it all, man. It's still to this day one of the gnarliest bumps I think we see is the dumpster being thrown off the stage, and such good storytelling to follow with it. Like, it was just awesome, man.
So like I mentioned before, Billy Gunn will take on Owen Hart for the European Championship. Road Dogg comes out with the mic, and the boos are just raining down. They're officially heels. Like, they're no doubt about it. Even Jerry Lawler, who is usually okay with the heels, is appalled at what they did. Owen comes out, still focused on beating the crap out of them. Road Dogg's dumped to the floor, turns to Gunn, who tries to fight back, and he's backdrop and a whip, and then clothesline to the floor. Decent match between both these guys. Owen Hart retains his championship that he just won. With the, Road Dogg he was pretty much involved the whole match. I mean, I know this was a DQ, but involved the whole match. The ref probably should have threw the match out from the beginning. You just threw Road Dogg out. If you really want to use this as like a sporting spectacle, throw Road Dogg out. He wasn't not going to get involved. So, but yeah, DX comes out and beats the shit out of Owen as well. And China throws in, and Triple H DDTs him. So yeah, this is a lot of stuff building towards Owen Hart, Triple H, and also building towards Cactus, Chainsaw, and New Age Outlaws. This is a perfect story. And this is only February, man. We got a whole more than a month until WrestleMania, and your card's already shaping out.
Yeah, and I think this is probably one of the hottest starts to a Raw that we've covered so far. Like, this has been really well done. Usually we get a fart in the beginning of the show. This is very, very well put together, and you're getting good storytelling. Like you said, we're so far out still from Mania, but the seeds are planted. The little sprouts are shooting out. Like, we're getting a visual of where this is all going, and it's good shit.
So the next three matches, you mentioned farts. These are like, the next three matches are just not good. Not good. So I think we should just kind of go through them quick. Mark Merrow defeated Mosh. We also get more of the stuff going on in this match to build up Mark Merrow is a threat to what title? I'm not sure, but he's like the king of the mid-carders here. Not sure where they're going with this. Like I said, I don't know. And then we get a segment with JJ and Wyndham are telling Bradshaw he's a loose cannon and he needs to get under control. And then we get Tiger Ali Singh's debut. We see him in the newsletter popping up. He's part of this whole crew. He's been called whole true messiah. They really are getting him hyped up to be the next face of whatever. I don't know, but Jim Cornette will be in his corner. So I don't know what the fuck is going on with that. But yeah.
Nobody did. That's why Jim Cornette was in his corner.
And of course, we have Chains defeating Farouk by countout. Not a great match. Not much to talk about here. Nation and DOA are down with Ahmed and Shamrock, and that's pretty much what you need to know about this. And we also have Bradshaw and Flash Funk taking on Jeff Jarrett and Barry Windham, and Bradshaw and Flash Funk get the win. This was
odd pairing.
Out of all the matches, dude, this match was so long, and it wasn't long, but it was longer than it should be. Like
yeah,
Cornette gets involved. And Bradshaw gets destroyed by, all four men. And that's pretty much it, dude. This match is not great. Bradshaw and Flash Funk got the win over Jarrett and Barry Windham.
Yeah, such a random slap.
So many roll-ups too, dude. How many roll-ups are we going to see to finish some of these matches? This was another roll-up.
They should have been sponsored by Fruit by the Foot, God damn it.
Oh my God.
It's ridiculous.
So Michael Cole's in the back on the phone, and there's been, disturbance with police have been called, and the situation is very serious. And before we get to that, we get some dude in the ring bragging about how WrestleMania sold out in 90 seconds. So here comes Kane. So Kane comes out, choke slams that dude, and here comes Vader. And then we get a little build towards Vader and Kane, which I think will happen at the next pay-per-view. Am I correct? It's Vader versus Kane at No Way Out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But what a way for they literally threw the 911 gimmick on Kane. Like, just go out there and choke slam random people left and right. Like, it was great, but like, I mean, that just to show that they knew what worked from ECW, man. Because 911 goes over as fuck, and every time you hit that choke slam, be it on a performer or a random, it worked. I mean, we see Kane do this many times throughout his career, where he just comes out and just cleans house. Does what he's got to do. So, and it's cool to see.
And some symbolism here. Vader takes a fire extinguisher to Kane and sprays it all over him, challenges him to a match. Kane wants to beat the shit out of Vader, but Paul Bearer pulls him back. Kane gets sprayed again, and Paul Bearer is like, no, let's live to fight another day, and they went to the back. So Monster Kane was able to be talked down by Father Paul Bearer, and they continue on from there, and we get a little program. And like I said before, pretty much the last meaningful program of Vader in WWF. If you want to even call it that, like this is I don't think he's on the WrestleMania card. He might be in the tag team battle royal, but that's really it for him.
Oh, breaks my heart. Breaks my damn heart.
All right. We have our main event here, which is meaningful. It's Steve Austin taking on Road Dogg. Lead us through. This is Austin in action. He's clearly not clear. Like he's not fully cleared. You can tell because he has not been completely active, but they did a good job protecting that.
Which they always did with Austin. It was great. But, yeah, I mean, we're about to take off hot with this. Jim Ross gets on there. He's like, an ambulance has arrived at the arena, damn it. Great Jim Ross mannerism. So Austin comes out stomping mud holes, walking people dry, doing his stone cold gimmick, man. I mean, Billy Gunn eats a stunner. Road Dogg's trying to get involved. DX comes down. Austin goes back on the offense. He's getting crazy, all hot and fucking bothered, damn it. So Austin's getting attacked now. They're getting crazy. Sean's sitting there being douchebag Shawn Michaels that he is. He's taunting, you're never gonna get this belt, Bell. He's looking at the crowd, he's looking at Austin. It's going crazy. But then we get Cactus Jack coming out, man.
Dude, he had the IV drip still in his arm.
Like, a beautiful, unbelievably great, man. And just, I mean, coming out, we have history with Foley and Austin and all this stuff. I mean, we're going back to ECW with the two. It's great. So, like, if you are really balls deep into the wrestling lore, the fandom, you're into it, man. You are loving this. So Foley and Funk walk by Austin, and they go straight for DX, man. This is so fucking wild. It's such a good closer for Raw. It's beautiful, man. So damn good.
I mean, I see what they're doing with Funk and Foley, and that's great because they are really tuning into the hardcore master stuff, and and it's weaving it with the main event. All these stories are tied together, whether it be the tag titles or the IC title and the world title and the European title. Seem like they're all tied together, where you have a tag team champion taking on the number one contender of the world title, and then you get Foley and Funk coming out. So twofold, you're able to build up towards both matches at WrestleMania. It's like, it's absolutely beautiful and it's exciting. The way it goes off the air, obviously Charlie comes out in a gown with a goddamn chainsaw too. Like,
it's beautiful.
Where'd
he get the
absolute
chainsaw?
Chaos. It's absolute chaos. And like, there's a lot of things in this show that probably could be cut. Like I mentioned, those 3 matches in the middle, but when it's 100%. Really good and it's nailing, it really does nail on the note. And there's some stuff like, Goldust coming out at the Mark Merrow match dressed as Marilyn Manson. Like, it just feels like it misses, and maybe it hit at the time. I don't think so. But some of the attitude era, like you said, they're throwing stuff at the wall and they're seeing what sticks. And so the stuff that didn't stick doesn't age as well. But the stuff that is like really effective is the stuff that weaves into bigger stories. And that's what they did best.
100%, man. And it's cool to see, like I said, just the seeds being planted and the sprouting of everything. Like, I mean, there's not a lot of meat on the bones with this, but there was a lot of rich, good storytelling on this one. And I loved every minute of it. And seeing how they go off the air is just so great, man. Like, you got Funk, Foley, Austin, DX, like it's everything and anything possibly could be going on, and we're getting it, and it's good shit. And I'm loving it, man.
It's really good. And like I mentioned too, like the characters are interweaved. They're not just so segmented on their own little island of what they're doing. It is completely intertwined. Everything feels like it's a living environment. And that was the compliment that we made of AEW a few weeks ago. It feels like they really tapped into that backstage environment. It feels like a living, organic world where they're all operating with each other and they live in this universe, not just these matches that happen because they're matches. It feels like a very eclectic type of characters that are constantly weaving together. And that's what makes it exciting, because these guys are larger than life and their characters and storylines are just really resonating with fans because they're doing a good job of making everybody know why they're important.
Yeah, and Chainsaw Charlie in a gown. Come on, that'll put butts in seats. I love it.
If it wasn't for the fact that we had the huge DX State of the Union and the Tyson Austin pull apart, I mean, how could you not have Cactus and Foley with the drip and the gown on the cover? But we had to include the stuff that was the stuff that gets people to check it out. But don't get me wrong, I was tempted to put Terry Funk in a gown on the bumper here. So on the thumbnail of yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's so good, man. So damn good.
All right, let's get into the chaser and pick our favorite parts of the 3 Raws. There's a lot to break down, but of course, we're going to do it for you. All right, Taz and Bam Bam Bellcaster, lead the way. What was your favorite part of these 3 Raws? Man, there's so much to break down. So many memorable moments. Dude, literally 3 all-time Raw moments happened in these episodes. 3. The Foley dumpster stuff, Tyson pull apart, and the State of the Union with DX, dude. So much shit.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, once we start getting on this journey, we're like, everything is just picturesque, right in the memory. Like the State of Address thing, I mean, we've seen it a million times, so good. But I mean, nothing is more important than, I think, that Tyson Austin pull apart. I think it was done so well. Vince being as hot as he is, Shane being there, just so much importance. And then the push, when Tyson pushes Austin, all fucking hell breaks loose. I think the hottest we think I've ever seen a crowd before. I mean, you're getting full blown fire going on there, really building up the lore, the mythical spectacle that WrestleMania is. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. It's so awesome, and they're building it up great. Yeah, probably some of the most important stuff we'll ever see in the history of pro wrestling going down right in front of our eyes. And Tyson and Austin is the winners for this week's episode, man.
Completely agree with you. And I feel like I'd be amiss if I picked anything different. So I'm going to stick with that as well. But also, as we go on, I feel like every Raw, every pay-per-view, there's going to be one of those moments that were so memorable. Yeah. And that's why it reaches the heights it is. And I know we're sitting here like, I can't believe 3 moments happened on 3 different Raws. I think on every single Raw for this run through 1998, there was something crazy that happened that we look at. It was like, wow, this was a game-changing moment with it's burned into our brain. And I don't know if it's just the allure of nostalgia. I think it really ages well. I think a lot of the storytelling does age well. And I'm a guy who loves work rate, so that's not, you're not getting that here. But it's not
Yeah.
why, that's not the type of itch you're trying to scratch by watching the Attitude Era. It's really pulling into the dynamic stories, the larger than life characters that are being created and molded in front of our eyes in such a great way. Because aside from just the top of the card, you got guys that are coming up through the card like The Rock, and to see what he becomes. And he's built so perfectly. They took him as one of those guys that was built as this third generation star, and he felt like he was destined to be booed his whole life. And Die Rocky, people forget Die Rocky Die was a thing where he
Yeah.
had go away heat similar to, his cousin Roman. And I think that's, I don't know. It's just crazy to see everybody's journey throughout this year. And you take for granted too, all the names that are here, whether it be Funk and Foley, but Austin, Taker, Kane, Owen Hart, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, like there are a who's who of wrestling history all in this roster. Whether they're used appropriately, that can be determined throughout the time of 1998. But I wouldn't change anything they did, because it was just, like you said, it changed the course of history for the better as far as wrestling goes.
Yeah, 100%. And very well put. I'm just so stoked, man. Like, every time we inch closer to Mania, I'm getting more and more hyped up. I'm hyped for the rest of the year. I'm hyped for SummerSlam. This was possibly the best year of pro wrestling on both sides of the fence, WCW and WWF. But man, this is the shining moment for WWF to come conquer WCW. I love every minute of it, man.
So, just a quick question for you. I know that AEW relies heavily on their work rate. Do you think they're, and I know the landscape of media, a lot, not just wrestling, it doesn't allow itself to have this buzz in wrestling that is so transcendent, like we're looking for in 1998. But do you think AEW has the ability to tell these type of stories because they rely too heavily on the in-ring work?
Ooh,
I think their matches are almost like too long to have things fit into these storytelling. I don't know.
I would totally be like, no, they couldn't until this week's Dynamite, because we seen that Attitude Era kind of bobbing and weaving of characters throughout the whole show. MJF specifically, I mean, he was on almost every other segment
Right.
for Dynamite this week and done very well. I mean, from starting off the mat or starting off the show fighting Takashi, going right into the Bryan Danielson ship, cutting the promos backstage, like coming out and doing commentary. Like he it was the way you focus on talent and do it right and make it a whole spectacle. The whole show was fantastic because of it. It elevated things. It made it that much better. I loved it. So I think they're learning, uh and I hope it does get to a point where it's like 1998 WWF, where with work rate. I want to see good matches, but I also want rich storytelling. I want to see the Acclaimed backstage talking to, Claudio or something, like in a fucking weird random ass segment, but tie it into the whole show. Make it more like make us care about the characters as well as the matches, not just one or the other.
Yeah, this match, I mean, this Raw specifically, the last one, had me thinking about tying the championships on Dynamite and AEW a little bit better. Can't remember a time that the tag team champions and the world champion were intertwined, or even the TNT champion, having them involved in a segment together or storyline where they're in the
Yeah.
ring together. I think a lot of what AEW has done, it's been great, but a lot has been focused on that work rate, which to me, again, go back to it. My favorite thing about wrestling is good wrestling. And I think Dynamite from Wednesday with Takeshi and MJF, Bandito with Roosh and Bryan
Oh
Danielson,
yeah.
the trios match for the trios championship, and then the tag team championship. You can't find a product that has better wrestling, but I think there's something to be said about pulling in the casual fan. The casual fan's not coming in for the 5-star matches. They're coming in for those memorable moments. And I guess there's a push and pull. Like, is there
Yeah.
going to be a neglectful nature on the work rate if it means bringing in the casual fan? Like we talk about it, and I bring it back to baseball as well. because there's all this conversation about bringing in more fans and getting the casual fan to watch baseball, the same fans that watch football. And a lot of people say we have to change what the game looks like. Pace of play, make it faster, have younger stars, figure out a way to change the game. But at the core of people that love wrestling, don't change what wrestling is to make it, I guess, attract the people that weren't going to watch in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of what appealed people to wrestling in 1998 were people that didn't like wrestling. So I think like that is also sort of the idea. Like, I love the stories and characters, but it was in lieu of actual wrestling. Like that's the kind of what I'm torn here about the storytelling, but it's also at the expense of what wrestling is about, which is the in the ring product, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you, and I agree with, trying to make it happen. But at the same time, I mean, you can't turn a bar into a 5-star restaurant, right? You know what you're going to get when you go to, like, you can't, Chuck E. Cheese isn't going to serve steak and lobster anytime soon. And nobody should expect it. Right. So you know what product you sign up for, you know what you want, you know what you're going for. Is there a way to better it and make it more meaningful? Yes. Are they taking those steps? I think they are. And I think it's Tony Khan. We've seen a lot of his WCW side of things. I think this year we're going to get a lot of the Attitude Era fandom coming out of TK, and I think we're slowly building into it. I think we're getting to a point where it's gonna be big, but I will never ever expect anybody on the casual side to care about it as much as 1998 fandom did, because it was water cooler talk, a lot of that, like, must see TV, the passion behind I mean, look at the amount of signs in the crowd. Like, we're way past that time, and I think we're gonna be on the cups of getting close to it, but I don't think we'll ever get it to be where it was back in, the late 90s, because it was completely crazy different times.
100% completely agree with you. It's hard to ever imagine it reaching the height it is, and I think that's a lot to be said that wrestling can't control. It's where media has gone, entertainment's gone, the options are endless. So wrestling was like one of those things that captured the imagination of everybody. And we talk about it all the time. You try to find the casual fan. They're watching UFC now. What's attracting the UFC? I'm not sure what is the draw that they're not getting with wrestling anymore. I guess that's for people to figure out that work in the higher offices of these companies to figure out how to get that fan back. All I ask is don't do it at the expense of the diehards that are enjoying the product. Because we always talk about these bigger shows when they bring back legends and Goldberg gets pushes and shit. That's to bring the casual fan in, and that leaves us diehards like, what about the guys we've been watching all year that deserve these main event slots? And that's, again, the conversation of a delicate balance of like balancing this great storytelling with WWF 1998 with the great character work, and also continue to tell the stories in the ring. So I think AEW is doing a beautiful job. I think they really are. But as far as getting the buzz, as far as media goes, I don't know if we'll ever reach that height. Maybe we can get a nice buzz for people with him being there. I don't know what it looks like, but I'm certainly here for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I will always say, man, just sit back and enjoy the ride, because we're in for something.
Yes, enjoy the ride. With that being said, let's enjoy the ride. Let's close the tab, get ready for the week, prepare you guys for next week, give a final wrap up. I appreciate you guys spending your Friday night with us, or Saturday morning, whenever you're consuming this. Let's close the tab. We have the bar lights coming on, and here they are. And we are time to close the tab. And before we preview the week of the Turnbuckle Tavern, next week's show will be episode 3 of season 3. Believe it or not, February 17th. We're going to be reviewing the February 9th Raw, WWF No Way Out of Texas, In Your House number 20, and the show February 16th Raw. So a lot to break down. We talked about Vader, Kane, more build to WrestleMania 14. The last major stop before the Fleet Center, WrestleMania 14, where Austin takes on Shawn Michaels. A lot of stuff to get into. I'm enjoying this ride. But Mike Belkesser, tell us about Fig Night. What else is going on? Is Sessions returning? All that kind of good stuff.
Oh, my goodness. Don't even bring up Sessions. I don't know what's going on. Yes, Fig Night. I believe we're going to do a little pre-recording this week. Obviously, it falls on the lovely day of Valentine's Day. So I think we're going to do a little bit of unboxing something. We're not leaving you hanging for all you guys out there. That you get your steak and potatoes still. We're going to do something fun. We got Tom back for a little while. It's going to be a good time, man. Looking forward to it. Obviously, the All Elite wrap up on Wednesday nights. Always a good time, man. We had our good old top fan, the guy, friend of the tavern, Austin from Pro Wrestling Central over on Twitter on this week. It was a good time, man. Really, really fun. I mean, AEW has been cranking out some of the best pro wrestling I think we're going to see this year consistently. So Dynamite's always a fun time. So always, you never know what we're going to see. Tune into the wrap up for all your fun stuff. And obviously my favorite spot to be every Friday night right here. Shout of Nostalgia. Just a blast, man. So enjoying it, man.
Yeah, so great. You guys did a great job in the AEW Rapper Show, and Dynamite's been crushing it. And I've been loving what they're doing, and they're building towards Revolution so beautifully. We're gonna get that Iron Man match with MJF and Bryan Danielson for the championship.
Yeah.
And of course, we're on the road to WrestleMania too. Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns being built up. So make sure you guys check out the Raw Down and all they're bringing the heat there. Flagship, you guys can check out all their takes, and we're gonna get to the final four of the Invitational for the entrance themes. So Hornswoggle was eliminated. So that was interesting, and somehow chose Mickey James over the Fabulous Rougeau. So that was interesting. Hawk is always sort of putting his own little spin on things. So I'm personally rooting for Maven. That's personally my favorite theme left of the bunch. I know it got some heat, but I am a big. I enjoyed Maven, but that's a story for another time. But we have more visits to Tavern coming your way. Fight or Die was rescheduled, so that will be pushed down. So there's no visits to Tavern following this. But I appreciate you guys watching those. But we'll have an audio drop coming up next Wednesday. Brother Greatness from Remarkable Wrestling, NYWC, Beyond, all those places will be joining me. You guys can check the video out. It's already on here. But if you want to just listen to the audio, that will be dropping on the Tavern happening next week. Future guests, too. I'll be recording with Adonis Stone. We're going to be doing Sean Knight, Zach Ramses. And again, like I mentioned, Dominic De Niro and Chris Barton of Fight or Die will be on here as well. So a lot more independent wrestling. And guys, pay attention to my Instagram at Acefield Retro for more Remarkable Wrestling. I got an Acefield Retro trading card coming out. You guys can visit me at Remarkable Wrestling on February 24th doing the ring announcing for Steel Cage Warzone. Pick up one of the trading cards. Really cool. Not just mine, but also pick up the other Remarkable Wrestling ones. And I made the cards too. So my first, piece of merch has the Acefield Retro logo on it. You can pick up a Gabe Sky card before he hits, the big stage, or Tristan Ty or Desmond Cole, Miracle Generation, Dustin Waller and Kylan King. That is a great amount of good talent with Remarkable Wrestling. So yeah, check that. I appreciate the support, guys. And, keep it going. WrestleMania is coming, and there's a lot of buzz in the air. I'm excited to be doing the Tavern stuff with you, my man.
Hell yeah, man. No, always a pleasure, man. And most exciting time of the year for wrestling fans, I think. We're riding that fucking wave, and it's going to be great. And as we always do, as luck works, Shout of Nostalgia is on that journey as well. So it's definitely a good time over at the Tavern, always, man.
Well, we appreciate your support. We'll see you guys next week. Who's leading us out? Is it Vic Venom? Is he leading us out?
Listen, bro, you want the dirt, give me the shovel. I'll show up at your house. But for now, we're shutting things down because big old Vince over here has got some booking to do. Okay, pal? So tune in next week, bro. Right here. Beautiful.